Welcome in, friends. Hey, it's the last day of the month, and it just might be the best because I've got a guest with me that is been pounding the pavement on TikTok with me for a couple years. We're trying to make a huge splash on YouTube. I want to introduce my friend Thinker today. Welcome in, Thinker.
Hey, Justin. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm excited. You and I have hosted, we've done some work together, but we haven't been on the line together yet. So this should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm told, well, not told, I know it is a big deal, but everybody keeps telling me how much of a big deal it is to be with you on the line. So I'm honored. I feel like
Well, for those
I've
of,
arrived.
listen, you have it right. But for those of us in the TikTok verse, though, like, you're the big fish. I'm the little fish when I
Oh no.
schlep over to your live stream.
Oh no. Everybody knows you, Justin. I told you we're like the mom and pop of deconstruction of TikTok.
I've heard that a couple of times, and I
Yeah.
think it's fitting. Except we must have really unruly kids because we're all the time having to spank the guests.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I told them I think they say our name more than Jesus. Like they tag our names and like no matter what chat we're in, like they're tagging our names and I don't know, but when they need to start paying ties.
Yeah, for real. You know what? You'll probably see this eventually. There's some Christians that will come to the live streams and they're so mad that they'll literally pay to have a super chat read out. It was usually some nonsense.
Yes. And but you know what I tell them? Don't put a Bible verse in it because you're gonna waste your money. Like I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna preach for you. Don't waste your money.
So your live stream is a lot of fun. You do a lot of really cool niche topics. What are some of your favorites right now coming into the Easter season?
Guess what I'm gonna do starting Sunday? I want
I'd
to
love to hear.
know. I want to know what the difference is between uh, somebody being demon possessed and somebody using their free will.
Mm,
Like I asked a believer that today. Like, what is the? How do you tell the difference between a person who is possessed by a demon doing something and a person just doing it with their free will? And they they had no idea. Like they don't know how to tell the difference. So I want to know what that is. Um, but yeah,
yeah, and how could you tell too with like? So this reminds me of another question. I think I heard it on your live stream where someone was asking, how do you know the difference between God talking to you and your
mhm,
own internal voice? Like
yeah.
what tool could you use to determine that? I've never heard a good answer.
They don't have one. A guy ran from the live stream Thursday night when we asked him that question. He literally he had never thought about it. It's like you realize that the sovereignty that you are saying your God has, you're passing down, like it comes from a human. And he's like, why are you saying that? And then he said, he said, but if God is a spirit, then how else could he talk? I said, exactly.
Mm,
And he ran. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's interesting because even, I don't know if the Christians think through some of the responses, but like God spoke audibly to people. Like, remember when he spoke at the mountain and terrified everybody in Israel, and they didn't want to come near the mountain anymore? Like, God could speak audibly if he's all
Yeah,
powerful. Why doesn't he do that?
exactly. What's the divine hiddenness about? That's
Right.
yeah. But now they're trying to redefine hide, the word hide.
Right.
We had a guy today on the live that we were on today, and he literally said that the dictionary isn't necessarily that important. The dictionary isn't important.
How are we supposed to converse if we can't even look at what the meaning of words are?
Is the Holy Spirit.
That's crazy. Oh,
Yeah.
you know what? The amount of people who think that the Holy Spirit is the tool for deciphering what the meaning of the Bible is wild. It's like, and nobody can agree. How come these people with the Holy Spirit are getting like divine interpretations from God, but they can't even agree on it?
And honestly, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out why the Holy Spirit can't speak Hebrew.
Right? I know.
I don't know. There was a guy today that literally kept saying we couldn't understand the Bible because we don't have the alive Holy Spirit in us. So I asked him, well, does your Holy Spirit how did the people translate the Bible? He said they had the Holy Spirit. I said, so the Holy Spirit helped them translate. He said yes. So I read Leviticus 18, verse 20 to him in Hebrew and asked him
To
to translate
translate with the Holy
it.
Spirit.
He said it doesn't work like that.
That's crazy. But I mean, that's a really good test of the claim, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently
So,
not to them.
okay, if in fact the Holy Spirit is the entity giving interpretations and whatnot, why do we even have Hebrew lexicons? Like we've got these brilliant scholars doing lexicography. What are they doing? Are they just praying and hoping to get an answer?
I guess. I guess. And if we use knowledge, that's not the right understanding. And it was
Hmm.
translated wrong because it wasn't translated through the Holy Spirit. And then he said the Holy Spirit isn't limited. It has unlimited power. But when it's in him, it only speaks English because he speaks English. And that doesn't mean that it's limited.
That's wild.
Very well.
Oh. So like so for those that haven't found you on YouTube yet, well, your title typically everywhere we go is Thinker, but
Mm,
actually your YouTube channel is called Arch Thinker, but also your handle is Think Beyond Dogma, right?
yeah. Yeah, there were already too many thinkers on YouTube, so I couldn't use that. But yeah, it's Think Beyond Dogma on YouTube. My TikTok is Thinker or Ngrowth. And I'm not on any other platforms. I don't do Facebook or Instagram or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's a mess out there right now, but
Yeah.
so you were a Christian, like me. You were a Christian for some time. Um, how long were you in the church, and like what led you to your deconstruction process? And before you answer, I just want to remind we're chatting it up for people who are just coming in. The lines are open. I'll say the lines are open at 720-619-2288. But I want to do some introductions with thinkers so everyone can get familiar with their backstory.
So I was born into I was Kojic Church of God in Christ. The you can't just join in, you have to be born in. Um, my father was a pastor. My mother is an evangelist. And I was a missionary before I started deconstructing. And I had a conversation with my brother one day, and he said, I don't think God likes black people. And I said, I think you're right. I said, I think you're right. And so I've always had questions. I was always the kid that was getting in trouble being, called demon and Satan the Lord rebuke you because I would ask questions and push back on things that were not logical, and getting in trouble for that. But I tried to play the role that, our families want us to play when it comes to this religion that's passed down. And when my brother asked that question, I made the decision that I was going to try to get to know the God and find out what his name was because, you know, things just wasn't feeling right. And I started researching, and learned that when our ancestors first came over here, they were not Christian. And my question was, well, what were they? Um, and not just one thing led to another. I wasn't even trying to deconstruct. I didn't even know what deconstruction was. As I started studying more, going outside of the Bible, because we were told to never go outside the Bible because that was demonic. All these other books were demonic, and I was shaking so bad, like going into these other books and reading and studying. But as I learned, looking at archaeology, I went into Assyrian uh, records, reading their cuneiform tablets and stuff, and that I just started deconstructing.
Yeah, it's really easy too because I remember a thought that I had when I was in seminary. I was reading some of the Hittite ritualistic texts where they say like how to do the sacrifices, just like the Bible, right? They had these texts
Hmm.
on like how to do sacrifices, and I kept running on this stuff like this is identical to the Bible. Like I wasn't trying to deconstruct. It just happened to be the more information I got, the more I was like, it kind of looks like the Bible is just like another mythology like these other ones.
Yeah. Did you go through the process of like trying to hang on to Christ as you deconstructed?
every step of the way, man. Like somebody said once in a TikTok stream, they said they were ex-Christian and said everything I left behind had claw marks in it. And I was that stubborn. I held on to every little thing I could until there was just no more defending it.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I think like when believers come in on the live and they think that we've never been Christian or that we just my favorite is you just want to sin. And I'm like, doing what? Like I don't do anything. I'm a grandmother for peace sake. Like I don't do anything. They don't understand what we've tried our best to make it make sense and tried to hang on to it. I went from spirituality to Christ consciousness to like just believing that, Jesus is. And it wasn't until I was able to let go of the reverence that I had for the word Christ. Yeah. It took a minute.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How were you as stubborn as I was? How long did it take? 'Cause I remember for me, it was like almost a decade before I was like, all right, there's nothing left.
It was 5 years.
Okay, yeah.
It took me 5 years, yeah.
Are you hanging on pretty hard?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I was so disappointed.
It is disappointing.
Yeah.
How do your family take it? Because having parents that are in ministry, when they have children that leave, that's got to be really hard for them.
My father is deceased.
Okay.
And so right before he passed away, though, he whispered in my ear after church and said, I'm done with this. And I said, no, you're not. 'Cause, like, he was getting ready to deconstruct. Like we had already, was talking about some things. And I had stopped going to church. I was trying to tiptoe out. I literally went to dinner with my husband and drank a glass of wine so I could say I wasn't saved. Because they taught against alcohol and drinking wine, and that was a sin. Mm-hmm. So I intentionally ordered a glass of wine just so I could sin, so that I could be like, okay, I'm not in it anymore. And I didn't show up for Sunday school because I was a Sunday school teacher. And he called and he was like, why didn't you come to Sunday school? I was like, I'm not saved anymore because I drank a glass of wine. And he chuckled and he said, that doesn't make you not saved. And I was like, damn. I was like
I tried.
What I gotta do? But before that, like we were having conversations and he told me that he was done, and then he died like that next week. But my mom and my siblings, my brother took over his church as the pastor, and we had some drag out arguments. We were blocked each other for 6 months to a year. And I had to set boundaries and they set boundaries, and now we're good now, but it took years for the arguing to cease, for them to respect the fact that I no longer believed.
You know what that means? That means Jesus's words are true and Christianity is real, because he said he came to divide families, and he seems to be succeeding in that.
That's about the only thing he do. That's the only thing. And he'll jumping backs. I will never get over that.
Yeah. So you're currently studying, because you never stop learning. It's phenomenal. That's one of the fun things about your channel, is every time you tune in, there's going to be something new happening, and it's really cool. What are you currently studying? We know that you're currently studying Hebrew, and so that's super exciting. Is there anything else that you're really interested in, that you're trying to add to your repertoire?
Yeah, textual criticism. Dr. Joshua Bowen is putting his curriculum together. He's gonna teach a textual criticism class. I've already started reading books about textual criticism. I did a sub-only live the last 6 weeks where we looked at the claim that Manasseh sacrificed children and was responsible for the fall of Jerusalem, and looked at how the text just changed over time and how culture, was responsible for that. And so that Hebrew and textual criticism, and we're looking at Paul next.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Mm.
I need to get back into textual criticism. I've kind of been distracted on other topics, but it's such a fun topic. Do you feel like if you ran into textual criticism when you were a Christian, do you think that would have been like a huge roadblock for you? Because for me, when I was a Christian, I think that was one of the first things when I was like, wait a minute, like what's
Yeah.
going on here?
Yeah. But honestly, I think I would have had to read the whole book for for it to even matter for me with textual criticism. Most people don't read the whole book and they don't see the culture, like they don't know the whole story. So we don't really catch the things that we should catch because we're cherry picking the Bible as believers and putting our
Right.
own story together. So I don't know that it would have as a believer.
It's hard to say. I think Bash was the one who said it that God's had like 3,000 years of a legal defense team, and it's still that's basically Christian's job is to apologize and defend this thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they
One
pick
Christian
up the
today,
role.
and they just there's no rules around it. One Christian today said that the cross was originally the serpent that Moses had.
What? Where did he make this?
In his head?
What?
Yes.
Okay.
It's they just make up the rules as they go, and then you're dealing with each individual believer who makes up their own rules. Like you've got to be really, I think, like we've got to have some type of superpower to be able to engage with that, like, right? Because the rules just change from person to person.
Yeah.
I think
For
we
sure.
have a Holy Spirit.
I do at least have a Holy Spirit decoder ring that I put on every once in a while when I need to read the Bible, just so I can know what it means. But it's tenuous. I need to get my shakeable magic 8-ball again to get some real answers. Well,
Maybe
we've
Alf in
got
the background.
yeah. Oh, dude, I'm so glad some people actually know who Alf is. So
Yeah.
I'm showing my age at this point, but it's all right. So we've got one caller in queue, Kenny, an agnostic from Tennessee, that wants to talk about whether or not the biblical God is evil. So it should be a fun topic. Friends, if you want to call in, the number is 720-619-2288. We do take agnostics and atheist calls as well. It's just that we're going to prioritize the believers because, people are really here to see a good, robust discussion. And you'll get it with Thinker and I. We're not trying to crush anyone's spirits tonight. We just want to have good dialogue about topics that are meaningful, and whether or not, hey, maybe this Bible God is kind of silly. Maybe it doesn't make sense, and maybe it does. Maybe we're wrong, right? Maybe you'll bring an argument that kind of shuts down our position, but we'll never know till you call in. So call in, get in line. We're going to be live for approximately 3 hours, so you don't want to wait for like 2 hours and then call in once you've gotten worked up by the prior discussions. Get in the queue now, and we'll be able to get to you before the show ends. But Kenny, hey, welcome in. You're on the line with Justin and Thinker. How you doing?
Hello, folks. I'm doing well. Thank you.
It's good to hear from you.
Sorry?
So it's good to hear from you. So it sounds like you might be agreeing with this. Your answer was to whether or not the Bible God is evil was yes.
Incredibly evil. Evil beyond conception.
Mm-hmm.
I've been watching atheist shows for at least a year now, maybe creeping on 2 years. And I've seen a lot of Matt. I've seen a lot of the ACA. Lately, I've been watching a lot of The Line with various hosts, including you two. And I just wanted to get in early so that I could put ideas out there that I haven't heard anyone talk about.
Sure.
My voice is not good, sorry.
It's all right. Although
I've got sinus drippage.
That happens. Your voice sounds okay, but you're real close to your microphone. I can hear the microphone popping a little bit. If you could just pull it back a little bit, that might help.
Okay, how is this?
Good. Mm-hmm.
I've put you on speaker. I think that works.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Well, here's my position regarding all gods that have been described that I know of in my life. And my life has been long, and I'm 72 years old now. For a while, I was a recovering Methodist. But now I have chucked all of Christianity overboard and let it sink to the bottom of the ocean. And partly that's due to having listened to many of these shows and listening to the pathetic arguments that Christians put up for their God, not realizing that it's Swiss cheese at best. And if it doesn't melt first, you can go right through one of the holes. That God is fictitious. The two of you probably know the history of where Yahweh came from, but in case anyone doesn't know, Yahweh was a minor god in the Canaanite pantheon of gods, El being the head god, and Yahweh being the storm and war god. And apparently, from what I've gathered in my studies, the Canaanites and the Hebrews lived side by side. There was no invasion of Canaan from Hebrews from getting out of Egypt and all of that. They lived side by side, but the Canaanites eventually left, and the Hebrews chose Yahweh as their God, which explains why the New Testament is so horrid, Old Testament, sorry, is so horrid and full of violence, and this God telling his people to do horrible things. A normal person these days has better morals than the God of the Old Testament. And I would like to debate that with any Christian that will. I hate the apologists, but I would debate an apologist on that because there's so much textual evidence. So, no,
yeah, I mean,
the Christian God
we don't disagree with you.
I'm sorry?
So we definitely don't disagree with you.
I didn't think you would, but there's more, as they say on TV. While I disavow allegiance to any God that I've ever heard of, I do have a lot of empirical data that we survive our physical death. In other words, I believe firmly in an afterlife. However,
have we talked about this before, Kenny? You and I?
This is my first call ever to an atheist show.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I decided to take my opportunity now.
That's fine. Now's a great time. So are you probably going to point towards like near-death experience research and things like that? Is that the angle you're taking?
Well, I call the entire group of phenomena death-related anomalous experiences. And NDEs are one example. Another example is after-death communications, which is another field I've studied pretty intensely. And a couple of others are mediumship and reincarnation. And there's evidence to support all these things if you accept qualitative evidence as opposed to laboratory numerical evidence. And I think that the human being needs to be a probe so that we can understand life better than trying to replicate things in a lab where it's artificial. So my argument is...
I don't know if that's always or if that's the only research we have. You're probably familiar with the Aware project number 1 and number 2 that was led by Sam Parnia and his team. The second project
British
ended.
Guy, right?
He was European, but I don't know which nationality he came from. But there was a team of medical professionals were involved, and it wasn't really a laboratory experiment. What they did is they retrofitted hospitals with cards and placards and things like that, so that if somebody reported leaving their body, they would get quizzed as to whether or not they could identify them, and then also they would generally just kind of write down the story, like, okay, you had cardiac arrest. What did you experience? The first Aware project seemed to come up with mostly nothing. The second Aware project had one instance that I think Sam Parnia and the rest of the team are kind of disagreeing on. Sam Parnia seems to be of the same opinion as you, that there might be evidence that there's like a consciousness that lives on past your body. But when I read the paper, the paper didn't really agree with Sam altogether. But that's what happens when you have a team participating in a study. Not everyone's going to agree on the results. But I bring that up to say this. We have done some real live studies in the wild, not just in laboratories, to try to figure out if there's something to it. And I haven't seen one yet that has produced like any results that we could say, yeah, that seems to be the case.
Okay. I don't think that conflicts at all with the things in my head, memory-wise. But the point I want to make is...
Yeah, I kind of interrupted you. Maybe lay out the case and we can engage with it.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get to, actually. What got my attention initially was near-death experiences. Mm-hmm. And the first book I read was by a psychologist named Ken Ring that was published in 1980 or so. He was a faculty member at the University of Connecticut, a psychologist, and he had read Raymond Moody's book, Life After Life, mm-hmm. which I didn't read for quite a while. But I read Ken Ring's book, and he was using psychological methodology, and that's what my second PhD is in, psychology. So I could understand his methodology, and he presented some pretty strong data, but at the same time, I wasn't convinced. So I came upon another book that was written a couple of years after that. In 82, Michael Sabom, S-A-B-O-M, wrote a book, and he's a cardiologist, and his book concerned operating room NDEs and what's called veridical evidence. That is, he would take the account from people like you just were describing, except it was more systematic. It was an actual scale. He would take those, I'll call them data from experiencers, and compare them with the medical notes, an objective, independent source of information about that patient and that procedure that day. And he had a control group that did not report an NDE, but did go through everything else, like all the patients who did report NDEs. And the control group showed nothing special whatsoever, but the experimental group showed that they were perceiving things that were in the objective, independent medical records. And he had something like 32 cases of that. And building on that, in the last 5 years, maybe a little longer, there have been a book and then a second edition of a book by Dutch researchers, and the book is called The Self Does Not Die. And the second edition has 125 cases of veridical evidence coming from NDEs and related phenomena. The evidence is stacking up. We do survive death. That does not mean that there's a God you can pray to that will intervene in your life and find you a parking space. That's just not the way it is. And in fact, I'm not sure that the thing that's out there is personal in any way. I certainly have no relationship with it. So I can't speak from personal experience because I have none, but I do have the experience of others that have been replicated literally tens of thousands of times. And the thing that's in common is that they survive physical death and they cross over into another plane of existence, I believe a parallel universe, parallel to our own. And I believe that the predicted wormhole from relativity is the passageway from one universe to the other. And people report these tunnels with lights at the end, and the way they report it sounds just like going through a wormhole. And I have actually published this in the 90s. So I think the evidence is there for the afterlife, but when it comes to gods, I'm an atheist concerning any God I've ever heard described. And I'm still taking bids, but no one's calling me and giving me ideas. So there's my case.
Awesome. Let's talk about some of the things. I might ask you a couple questions before we dig into the meat. Do like my pet dog and my pet cats, do their souls live on?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Is this true of all animals?
It appears to be. This is a recent thing on my part, but I've seen evidence in recent years, very recent years, of animals Uh, well, one was a deer that was hit on the street, on the highway, and it tried to get up and it walked over to the edge and it fell down again. And then you saw a light white mist rising from its body and then heading off camera to the right. And I'm like, I just saw the soul of that deer leave its body. I was stunned, but I saw it.
Okay.
And I've got YouTube videos stacked up to here with humans leaving their bodies on camera. So the evidence is there. Unless you want to say it's a broad conspiracy to put out garbage.
I don't want to dig into whether or not your evidence is good evidence yet. Personally, I don't think the soul of a deer was visible. Probably some other nonsense. That's not important right now. I'm just trying to get an idea, because I think there's going to be some logistics that we need to hash out. So how long have the souls of all animals and human beings on Earth been living on past death? Has this been going on since the beginning of life?
Wow. Do you really expect me to know the answer to that?
Well, it's kind of important because, like, we do the same problem with the Bible. Like, for example, there's 2.5 million Israelites that went into the desert, and then they all drank from one rock. It's a preposterous story.
Yeah.
That being said, when we're talking about NDEs, there are logistical questions we actually have to consider. So, do you believe in evolution? I assume you do.
Yes.
Okay. So let's imagine for a second that for, I don't know, at least 1 billion years, all the animals and all the living entities that have ever been on the earth, they have died and their souls have lived on. Where are they living?
There is not just a universe, but a multiverse. And this is the latest creation of cutting-edge physics. And people like Brian Greene, who is a string theorist, has written an entire book about multiverse theory. And I believe that the next universe over is where we go, so to speak. I look at the multiverse as like a loaf of bread. Each slice of the bread is a 4-dimensional universe embedded in a 5-dimensional space. And so when we leave this 4-dimensional space, we travel through the wormhole, which is in the 5th-dimensional space, to another 4-dimensional universe on the other side of the wormhole. That's what the data and evidence say.
Right. Okay. So we have alternative universe. I don't think that's what the evidence says, by the way, but I'm not concerned with that.
Did I not answer your question?
No, you did. That's why I'm moving on to the next question. So I'm trying to clarify that. So what you're suggesting is that when all these souls die, they go to the alternate universe. Now, this is interesting because according to most NDE research or like post-death research or psychic mediums or anything like that, these souls seem to be localized here on the earth still yet, right? So what that means is, are you saying that the soul has the ability to go back and forth between our current world and this alternative universe? I think he dropped and came back. He'll be back in a second. Must have
You
had
can just
bad
pull him
reception.
back in if you want.
His phone went to an alternative universe. Okay.
I was thinking the same thing.
We're trouble.
What's going on? I don't know where I am.
I think you lost reception. It's okay.
Well, the call just dropped on my phone. I don't know what happened.
It was probably just reception. Don't worry about it. You're back on.
Well, it interrupted something that was going pretty well.
Yeah, I know. We're going to continue it. Don't worry. So, what I was asking was if the souls of all these entities, living entities, go off into an alternative universe, how is it that we're still able to dialogue and commune with them here on the earth?
Because they can come back through the wormhole.
Okay. So they can just go back and forth to universes once they no longer have a body?
When you're not trapped in a material body, then you're free to explore the 5-dimensional space in which our 4-dimensional world is housed.
So what you're suggesting is like the sci-fi idea of wormholes are real now? I didn't realize that science had approved this theory yet.
Einstein gave us an equation, and years ago I had a friend of mine who was a computer graphics person plot the equation, and lo and behold, it's a drawing of a wormhole. It's in Meissner, Thorne, and Wheeler, General Relativity. I can't tell you the page number. I used to know it. And the drawing is in there, and the equation is in there, and I was able to reproduce the drawing using the equation.
How do souls see?
A great question. A better question is, why do we need eyes when we have a body?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. How do souls see things visually? Because we can only see things because we've got photon receptors. Without photon receptors and without photons, you're not going to be able to see anything. So in the alternative universe, are there photons and photon receptors?
Ooh. Oh, that's a fine question. You do not need eyes when you're out of body. You do not need sensory organs when you're out of body. The reason we need those things when you're in the body is that your soul is blocked off from them by the body. And so to get along in this world, we have to have sensory data, and it can't be direct because we're covered up with matter.
Sorry, can you pull the microphone a couple inches away from your mouth? It's doing the popping again.
I'm sorry.
Right, but what I'm suggesting is that without a way to interact with the world around us, we don't have a way to interact with it. Like you need a vehicle. Right, and our vehicle are eyeballs, which are basically photon receptors. So, what is your soul using? What's the mechanism that allows a soul to see anything?
Souls, you're asking the question, so I'm going to go there. Souls are composed of something different from matter. That's why they have the properties that they do. String theory tells us that everything in the universe can be broken down into strings, Planck level, tiny strings of energy that come in two forms.
Sorry to interrupt you, Kenny. I've done the string theory bit before. I'm not asking about string theory. I'm asking about a mechanism. Like, what's the mechanism that allows a soul to visually interact with anything?
String theory is part of the answer to your question, if you want to hear it.
All right. Well, let's have it.
Okay. Probably the question you should have asked me previously was, how can something non-physical interact with something physical? Like, why in the world should a soul inhabit a body? How is that possible?
I'm not asking that question. I'm asking specifically, how does something without photon receptors see anything?
Okay. The nature of the soul is that it has an electromagnetic field associated with it. That's the one common physical property with bodies that the soul has. And so, photons, being electromagnetic energy, directly interact with this.
As an electrical engineer, I'm deeply concerned at this new rabbit trail that we're on.
All right.
What data do you have to suggest that souls do anything electromagnetically?
I have seen so many videos of people hunting ghosts.
YouTube videos, gotcha.
Television shows and documentaries and everything else. Not just YouTube videos. There's a whole world of stuff out there that you guys don't examine that would lead you to think more.
I have.
What?
I've researched paranormal all the time. You're probably referring to the EMF detectors?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how EMF detectors work?
Yes.
Okay. You know, there's lots of things that EMF detectors can detect that are going to have electromagnetic force that aren't alive and aren't souls. Like, in fact, you can literally just get it close to certain bodies of water. Like, there's so many things that will trigger an EMF detector. Like, you could walk through the wrong mist and trigger it. These are not actual, like, research devices for souls. These are gimmicks that people sell on the internet to trick people who are gullible enough to believe that souls have some sort of electromagnetic force.
Okay. So you reject my entire idea. That's fine.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, I didn't get a degree in the paranormal, but I was an electrical engineer for 20 years. EMF detectors are, they're basically toys if you don't actually have an actual purpose for them. And most people using EMF detectors have no idea what's happening.
You have not been watching what I've been watching.
I've literally used them myself.
Oh, I don't doubt that. Look, my first area was physical chemistry, and my research was theoretical chemical physics. That's
how come
before I
EMF
went into
detectors
psychology
don't
and got a PhD in clinical
how come
psychology.
how come EMF detectors don't go off every time a human being is holding one?
Because there's a baseline to be measured first.
Do we have souls? How come it doesn't go off when we're holding it because we have souls and we're holding the thing?
Oh God. Your soul's EMF
I know, yeah.
is
These are really easy logistical questions. If an EMF detector can detect souls and I'm holding it and I have a soul, how come it doesn't go off when I'm holding it?
Why do you interrupt me when I try to answer you?
Because there's a delay. I don't interrupt you while you're answering. I'm interrupting you and there's a delay. It sounds like I'm interrupting you.
I was answering your question when you started talking again, so I had to stop.
You thought you were answering my question. I didn't hear it. I told you there's a delay. When you start talking, there's about a 1.5 to 2 second delay before I can hear what you say.
Okay. I didn't know that. Oh, what do you want me to say now?
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Thinker. Yeah, I'd love to hear you dig into this one.
I just want to know, like, really quickly, what does the soul use for memory, right? Like, if the soul comes back and it wants to, like, visit family or, I don't know, go see a celebrity, like, what does it use for memory?
Fantastic question. Memory is a pretty mysterious thing to psychologists and certainly to philosophers. Memory is an interactive phenomenon between the brain and the soul. The two overlap electromagnetically, and they influence each other bidirectionally by virtue of their electromagnetic fields and the fluctuations thereof. So a fluctuation in the electric field of the soul is going to cause a fluctuation in the electric field in the brain, and that's how the soul and brain communicate with each other. Now, I have forgotten what your original question was.
I mean, if you're dead, right? Your brain is rotting in the ground. It's not communicating with this soul. It's decaying.
No, it's not.
Right. So what does the soul use for memory without this body? Right.
Okay, I was working towards that.
Like, it's kind of similar to the question that Justin asked, as far as like what mechanism does the soul use to see, right? What does it use to remember where to go? Like, how does it remember people, places?
I'm trying to wait for all the delays to go by. It's a great question. It is not one I can directly answer. I can say that during physical life, memory is something that's handled first by the brain, and apparently, and then by the soul. But it's a cooperative venture between the soul and the brain. This is why you can have brain damage and lose memory, but after you die, you have that memory because you're no longer dependent on an interface that doesn't work right anymore. So there is some way, and I can't tell you this, some way to store memories in a non-physical agent such as a soul. I have no way to know how that works. There's not nearly enough data, and there may not ever be data that would tell us how that works. But I certainly don't know the answer to that question. I just know that memories are retained, and you remember your life once you've left your body. And I believe that to be true even of people with Alzheimer's. I believe they have a retrieval problem, not a storage problem. And so when they're freed from their bodies, their defective bodies, their non-defective souls can remember what was going on when their brains would not let them remember.
So, like, wait, you're saying that the soul can remember, like, but something is wrong with the brain that's stopping them from retrieving these memories because the memories are stored in the soul, but you don't know how or where?
No, the memories have to come through the brain. If you're going to talk, it has to go through the circuits that control your jaw and vocal cords. If you're going to move, it has to control the circuits, the motor cortex, the circuits that let you move. The body has the properties it has because the soul has been deprived of them by entering a physical house, a body. And so the body has to replicate as much as it can what the soul would do on its own. This is why we have restricted visual spectrum, for instance. People who have NDEs report that when they get to the other side of the wormhole, they see colors that they've never seen before. And that makes sense because we have a restricted visual range in terms
so do
of
people on
frequencies.
LSD, man.
Sorry?
So do people on LSD.
Yes, and I've written about that.
It doesn't make sense. Like, how are they remembering what they're seeing? How are they even seeing? Right? Like according to you, that like they've left their body, right? And they're seeing these different colors. And then when they come back to their body, they remember what they've seen when they're away from their brain. And the reason that we have memories is because of our brain, right?
If we were in a body, but the body had no brain, then you'd have no memories and you wouldn't even be alive. The brain is important, but it's not the ultimate.
I want to make sure that we're hearing you correctly. Where are the memories stored?
During life?
Yeah.
They appear to be stored in the cortex.
Okay. And why would we believe that they're stored in the soul? Because the soul is intimately interlaced with the cortex. The two work together during physical life. Yeah, that's what we're asking for. How does that actually work, and what's the evidence for it? Because I think you're asked a really good question. I'm not really hearing an answer to it, which is like, if the memories are stored in the brain, I don't understand what the soul is doing here.
Well, both of you are ignoring what I keep repeating, which is that it's a cooperative venture.
That's not an answer to the question. We're asking how. Like, if you asked me, hey, how did Thinker and Justin get on this live stream? And I said, it's a cooperative venture. That doesn't answer the question. The how is that we both logged on to a Zoom call and now we're streaming to YouTube.
Okay.
Also, our voices are coming through microphones, and our image is being cast through cameras, right, to you. So, like, we can tell you how. How are these memories being? How is the soul working with the brain to form these memories or store these memories? And I'm interested in what the soul has to do with that while the body is alive, but more interested in understanding how the heck the soul is doing that afterwards.
Yeah, we have a lot more information on your first point than on the second one. We have no information on that second point, in fact.
You don't have information on the first point either, because you've not been able to prove that a soul exists and that it's doing anything with the brain. The brain does what the brain is going to do what the brain does, right? The brain works even without the soul. Right? Like, you've not been able to even prove that that soul is necessary.
It may be necessary. I don't know. ethics boards won't let you do those kinds of experiments.
So why do you say you have more evidence for that? You don't.
I have a ton of NDE evidence with veridical perceptions verified by independent, objective sources like doctor's notes from the operating room.
Let me ask you a question. So when a person has surgery and they're given anesthesia that knocks them out, makes them unconscious to the point where they're like one step before death, right? Have you ever had surgery before?
Several times.
Okay. And you've gone under general anesthesia?
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any memories while you were asleep?
No, everything was turned off.
Almost like you were dead, like your brain was dead, damn near. I'm sorry, I don't know. Can I cuss on here?
Oh, you can cuss all the fuck you want.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. Okay.
Fucking
So
hell,
like
yeah.
okay. So like your brain, it was like you was damn near dead, right? Like they give you anesthesia to the point to where they turn everything off. Like you're at this
No,
unconscious state.
I
You
think if they
couldn't
were
dream
running an
it.
EE, can I answer you, please?
I'm trying to explain what I'm asking. Like you were at this point to where you could not dream because your brain was, your receptors, everything was turned off, right? Your
Well, that's how I understand it. Yes.
okay. And what? So if when you're when a person is under general anesthesia and everything is turned off, similar to how it would be if you were dead, what do you think would have happened? Like, where was your soul then? Was it under anesthesia too? Was it like drunk, high? Did it take a break? Like, where was your soul during anesthesia?
Another great question, thinker. You've got a load of them.
That's why we call her Thinker.
Oh, well, that makes sense. And she is thinking. You are thinking, thinker. And you're asking really good questions. In fact, you're asking better questions than my committee did when I defended my dissertation on this topic. So you've earned the label thinker. And you deserve honesty from me, and I'm giving you nothing but my honest thoughts. I don't understand how the soul works internally when it's separated from the body. No, I don't know. I don't know what kind of evidence could tell me. I don't have any physics to guide me on that point. The other case where the soul and the body are united and you want to know how memory works, I cannot tell you the exact answer to that question either. It's a very difficult system to understand, and you're very right to ask the question, and I wish that I was advanced enough to be able to answer you. But I'm not. I've been working on this since 1991, so a very long time. I've published 4 publications on this topic, and there are still an infinite number of questions I cannot answer. What I'm going for is, what can we answer? Where do we start to try to get reliable information out of these phenomena? And so I have been in stage 1 the whole time I've been working on these problems. Stage 2 would allow me to understand how the soul works internally and what is it exactly on the other side of the wormhole. I have decided not to try to touch those topics because they're too speculative, and I don't have physics to guide me once we leave the wormhole on the other side. I've got no idea what physics is like in another universe. So I have to stick with known and edge physics to explain my ideas. And I'm not smart enough to know exactly how memory works, even if there were no soul and we were just brains. I still wouldn't be able to tell you how memory works in that case. So that's my honest response to your question, which is a great question.
I think, like for me, that would seems like that would be one of the earlier questions to answer, to even see if it makes sense to even pursue that, right? Because that is something that needs to be, that would be required for one to even say, like you talked about mediumship, right? And a lot of mediums claim to speak for the deceased relatives of someone who's living. That deceased relative would have to have memory. And so to even validate that claim, I think that should have been like the first thing that you tried to figure out. Like to me, everything else is irrelevant if you can't explain how a soul is thinking or holding memory.
As I've said before, I am guided by physics. Physics is not advanced enough to answer the question that you're asking. I am not advanced enough to answer the question that you're asking. I can only say it's a very legitimate question, and I wish I knew the answer, but I don't.
I get that. I'm just saying I think that would have been, like, that probably should be the first question to start focusing on.
Okay.
Like you said, you've been working on this since like 1991. Like the mechanisms for how a soul would do, right?
I didn't say that.
No, I'm saying that. Like I think that would probably be the first, right? Like, I mean, you could figure out like that a soul exists, but just because you say like you find evidence that, I don't know, you measure the energy leaving a dead body, like the guy did with the, what was it, the 21-day study, 28-day study. Let's say you were able to measure energy leaving a dead person's body. You say, "Oh, that's the soul." By the way, I saw my grandmother die. There was nothing left her body except for her breath. I was standing right in front of her.
It's in the near IR, so you have to have night cameras.
But you saw a deer soul without night cameras?
No, it was on a security camera fixed on a certain part of the road. There were no people involved. Okay. And it was night.
How do you see something that's immaterial?
With my eyes? I know that's not the answer you're looking for. I don't know how that works. I can see it.
We see things because photons are bouncing off of objects. Some of them get reflected, some of them get absorbed, and they made it into our eyeballs, right? So if something is entirely immaterial, if it's entirely immaterial, photons aren't interacting with it. You can't see it.
Okay, I'll go back and re-explain. The photons are collected by the biological part of you, your eyes, your retinas. Photons are entities in this 4D universe. They are connected to space-time. And this is coming from string theory. They don't have a choice about whether or not they can leave the universe. They have to stay in it, along with all material particles. But the other kind of string is a closed loop string. Unlike the open-ended strings that make up matter, the closed loop string is not constrained to remain within this four-dimensional universe, and therefore it can travel through wormholes. And since the soul
not talking about wormholes, my friend, just try to focus up here, right? So the question is, if photons, that's the thing that allows our eyeballs to see. Like, we're in our physical world, we have eyeballs, we see things because photons are interacting with the world, and then also our eyeballs, right? If something is completely immaterial, that means the photons are not interacting with it, which means we shouldn't be able to see it, even with an infrared camera.
I have seen it so many times.
Well, you didn't see a soul then.
What I've seen.
What you've seen is something that is not a soul. It's clearly something that is either you're imagining it or it's something else. Maybe it is something physical, like a mist, the last breath's mist, who knows? But it's certainly not a soul. You can't interact with something that's immaterial like that.
Okay, I have tried. I didn't really think I would succeed, but I thought I would give you guys a chance.
I mean, it's been fun.
I've tried. I'm sorry?
It's been fun. I mean, I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. We're just trying to ask all the basic logistical questions, right?
Well, don't I keep acknowledging that they're good questions?
Yeah, I don't have any complaints. I think you've been a fair conversationalist.
Interlocutor.
Well, yeah, interlocutor does count.
Does count?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is what we're doing, you could be considered an interlocutor. It's just that I usually tend to reserve that for people that we're in heated, intense debates. I feel like what we're doing is having a robust conversation, and that's fine.
Yes, I'm using it in the Socratic sense.
Right. That's fine.
And so it is a calm discussion in the Socratic way.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, in the Agora in ancient Athens, they had these kinds of discussions all the time.
Mm-hmm.
One atomist, Democritus, believed that everything was made of atoms, but that the soul was something special. It was made of very fine atoms, therefore it could overlap.
I know, we're familiar, right?
You guys have studied Greek philosophy?
I've read some of the early works on the soul, like from Plato and Aristotle, but that's not.
So you read Plato.
I don't think it's relevant. I don't think it's relevant to what we're talking about right now. I agree that the ancient Greeks and even the Romans had this belief. In fact, Paul touches on this in the book of Corinthians, but that's not important. So what I'm trying to figure out is, like, it seems like we've got a huge problem that when we examine like the logistics of the soul, we keep finding these things that I think are like defying what we know about physics. And I don't know how we square that round peg.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, well, I think Thinker had a good one with the storage of memories. I don't know how you can store memories with something that's entirely non-physical. What that mechanism is, you need a mechanism for storage. It can't just exist without a mechanism or a location.
And this is a demonstration of why I'm not able to get my points across. When I answered that objection earlier, you have just tossed it away as though I didn't answer it. But I did.
You didn't answer it.
I answered it to the best of my ability.
I'm not asking you if the brain and the soul work in tandem. I'm asking how does it work, right?
Oh, I don't say right because I don't know if that's right or not.
I mean, yeah, I know. I think I've basically, I only have one question left. But I'll let Thinker join in. Did you have anything you wanted to continue with? I didn't mean to interrupt the conversation.
No, I don't have anything.
So I have a really interesting question because Thinker brought up this stuff about memories, and I think it's really good. I might have actually two questions. So why is it that when our brains are damaged, that we can simply lose memories? Wouldn't we expect that those memories are collected in the soul, especially if you have a real traumatic incident where you actually do have a near-death experience and you left your body? Wouldn't we expect some of those memories to still be retained in the soul for when you came back? Why is it that when this happens, we have cases of amnesia and different things like that? Where are the memories going?
In the case of a brain damaged person,
mm-hmm.
I don't think they get formed, except, well, another great question. This memory thing is difficult. I don't have answers for you. Sorry?
It's just a tough one. I had one more question, and if you don't have an answer for it, that's fine. I just want to get your take. So I've been studying NDEs for quite some time. I think they're really fucking fascinating. They're really cool. I've had family members that reported NDEs. My own mother counts among them. But the one thing I did notice that happens a lot is there are NDEs in all different cultures, and they seem to follow what people believe about the world already. So, for example, you already talked about Plato. Plato tells the myth of air, where air basically had this NDE, and his NDE is an experience of the Greek divine realm, basically, right? And then in Islam, there are people who have NDEs that seem to mirror their own religious view of the world. Why is it that NDEs are different for every culture? Why wouldn't they just all be identical? There's only like one experience. You die and then you meet the same afterlife that everyone else has.
No, that's not how it works. People do tend to report their culture. Let me know when I can talk.
Well, you didn't answer the question. That's why I reframed it. I'm asking you, why do people in different cultures see phenomenon that is from the culture itself?
Because they're back in the same body that had those beliefs from their culture. And they are limited, once they're back in their bodies, by the things they've learned from their culture. And they interpret things they saw while out of their bodies in terms of things that are in their culture, because NDEs are ineffable. They are not expressible in normal language. So people go to their cultural myths or whatever and try to couch it into something they know so that they can describe it, because otherwise it's indescribable. So, yes,
but they described it
comes into the process.
But they described it in terms, like, we've got descriptions of Egyptian deities, right? If there's no God in the afterlife, they shouldn't be experiencing Egyptian deities. Air should not have been experiencing the Greek deities. None of these deities should have been existing in their afterlife if it's merely just souls living on.
And how do you differentiate that from a dream?
That's a fair point.
How would you differentiate this from a dream? If you're saying that they saw something completely different in this other realm, this other universe, that they could not explain, but then they come back to their body, and then their body feeds them a completely different picture based on what their brain already knows. How do you differentiate that from a dream? Then they really don't know what they saw, or if they actually had an experience.
Dreams do not provide veridical evidence.
What?
But that's not your question, my friend.
If they go to this other realm, right, through this wormhole, when they have this near-death experience and they see a completely different universe, and their brain is back in the other wormhole. I don't know what they're using to see or to store whatever they saw, but they see something that their human brain on Earth can't explain or comprehend. Like, there is no words for it. But when their soul gets back to Earth in their human body, you're saying their brain takes that experience and creates an experience using the knowledge that they have acquired here on Earth. And that's why everybody's experience is differently. Well, help me understand your answer to Justin's question, because Justin is asking, why do so many people have very different NDE experiences? For example, a lady said that Biggie Smalls was in hell in a blender getting blended over and over again. Peter was hanging by his balls over fire, looking at the women with braids in his hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, why do people have different experiences? That was Justin's question, and I understood your answer to be, well, they didn't really have those experiences. Their brain didn't have the information it needed to actually interpret what they saw when they went through the wormhole. So their brain just used what they actually knew, um, using the which is usually their culture. And so if that's the case, then they didn't really have the NDE experience that they said they have. She didn't really see Biggie Smalls in a blender. She saw something else. You see what I'm saying? How do you differentiate that from a dream?
I can't explain any one person's description of their experience.
I'm not asking you to explain their experience. Your answer to Justin's question was their brain interprets their NDE using the culture or information that they know.
Right.
So, which means that they didn't really see or experience what the brain told them they saw or experienced.
It means that the story the brain came up with to explain their experience is not identical to the actual experience. It's the actual experience fit into a pre-existing mold that is culturally, at least partially culturally defined.
So that's what I'm saying. How do you, if the brain told a story that didn't actually happen, how do you differentiate that from a dream? That person doesn't really know what happened if the brain told them a different story. That's my point. So that's why I used the example of the lady who had the NDE saying that she saw Biggie Smalls in hell in a blender. So her brain told her that story, but that's not what she really saw.
I hope not.
But how do you differentiate that from her just having a dream? Because her brain doesn't know what she saw when she went through that wormhole, or if she actually went through a wormhole.
Thinker, your question is very good again. And this is the reason why death-related phenomena are what I target in my work. Only when you're dead do you know whether or not you have a soul, because if you don't, you're dead. And if you're dead, but you still think and you still see and you still move around, then you're a soul without a body. This is not hard to understand. And so I've chosen the phenomena that expose themselves to me, the first one being the tunnel, so-called tunnel, which I discovered was the relativistic wormhole. And then I just started following the data wherever it led me. And so my ideas about
I don't think that works. Sorry to interrupt you, Kenny. I've experienced the tunnel 3 times. And I didn't go to any alternative universe. I didn't see any gods. I've had near-death experiences myself, which is why they're so interesting to me. I saw the tunnel, and then it was nothing. I woke up number of minutes later, 10, 12 minutes later, in a different location. There were no memories, there was no experience, but there was definitely a fucking tunnel.
So you never entered the tunnel?
I didn't have the opportunity to. It was a tunnel.
Yeah.
And then black. That's it.
Yeah. So you had a partial NDE.
I was dead.
Yeah, but what you're remembering is only partial.
No, what I'm saying is, if NDEs are evidence of some afterlife, we need something better than people see a tunnel. People see tunnels all the time. In fact, I saw a tunnel. The last time I saw it, I was 22, and I wasn't even near death. I had a really low blood pressure, and I ended up passing out in an elevator. And it was almost the identical experience from when I actually did have heart failure and die. The tunnel.
Yeah.
Boop, it happens. It's something that happens when our brain is lacking oxygen, which is why you can not eat for a couple days and then have a similar experience. Like I was on the wrestling team in high school, and one time I passed out because I was an idiot teenager and I wasn't eating, and very similar experience. Like these things have explanations other than spirits.
Other than spirits?
Yeah, we've got good data scientifically to suggest that some of this phenomenon is literally just your brain doing what the brain does.
Oh, boy. Well, since I've been reading and writing and researching all of this for 27 years, oh, I'm sorry, 35 years, then I don't expect you to have read all the things that I've read, and I don't expect you to have entertained all the questions that I have, and I don't expect you to have a publication record in the field like I do. But I expect a rational person to give another rational person at least half a chance to get his viewpoint stated correctly. And I haven't gotten that chance during this call. I've been interrupted every time I tried to start out answering the question. And so
there's some wild stuff
like
right here.
Here we go again.
I'm used to the Christians crying about persecution. I didn't realize agnostics get persecuted up here.
I don't feel persecuted. I feel that you're ignorant.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, we're the ignorant ones. You couldn't actually explain your position adequately, so we're the ignorant ones.
Like, you've been asking the same questions for 35 years and you still don't have an answer.
I wish I was on Zoom with you.
You'd
enjoy the big grin I've got. No, you don't see me.
What?
I don't think we would. I think it'd be creepy.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm real creepy. Yes. I'm pretty much anything you want to call me.
Great mustache. I already looked you up on the internet. You had a great mustache, but a creepy smile is not what we need right now.
Oh, wow. So we're now to the level of insults?
No, I didn't insult you. I said you had a great mustache. That's a compliment.
You said some other things too.
I said I think it would be creepy if you were on our Zoom call smiling at us right now.
Thank you.
Because you don't sound like you're smiling. You sound like you're starting to get a little bit irritated, which is a weird time to be smiling at somebody unless it's some sort of like passive aggressive bullshit.
That would be insanity if I thought
we were really nice to him.
Smiling.
Like, what's happening?
It is what it is. What are you going to do?
Just tag team interruptions.
He's fulfilling Isaiah 53 right now.
What? I'm not fulfilling anything.
We're just fucking with you. Hey, Kenny, thanks for calling in. I think it was a fun conversation. I think we've got to the.
You guys are the dishonest ones. You guys,
we're the dishonest ones.
To protect.
Yeah, we're the ones. We're the ones asking questions that aren't getting answers.
You're talking over me.
Like a
you're interrupting me. I give you answers and you reject them.
You gotta have ears. Hey,
and now we're both talking at the same time over and over.
But you gotta have ears to hear.
And now neither of us are going to quit talking, and so we're going to keep blotting each other out.
I mean, to be fair, like to you, like if we talk over you, I don't know exactly how the audio system works, but I'm pretty sure if we both talk at the same time, my mic will probably be louder than yours. I can actually turn it up though, just to make sure that that is the case. I'm not sure if that's going to be a productive route, but what I'm saying here, Kenny, is like I thought that we were having an interesting conversation. I thought it was interesting. I'm just saying that now that we've gone through it for the last 45 minutes, we've asked some really basic logistical questions that don't seem to have answers. And I think those questions need answers before anyone can buy into the theory that these souls exist. I mean, there were so many things we could have talked about. We barely just scratched the surface before we start finding things that don't make sense. This is just like if you go to court and you tell a story in court, and then it turns out there's a bunch of problems in your alibi. It's right for the opposing counsel to be like, hey, listen, you have an alibi, but here's some fucking problems in this alibi, and here are the problems, right? So listen, it's fine that you say that sometimes you don't have answers for things. There's nothing wrong with not knowing something, but you have to understand from our perspective, if we're asking basic logistical questions and there's no good answer for it, what that means is we don't have a really good reason to buy into the same thing you've bought into.
You have been starting at the most difficult part. In my
Why would we start at the easy part?
No, it's not the easy part. It's the most difficult part.
You can't answer the easy part right now. Like, the easy part for you would be proving that there is a soul. That's where you started. And you can't answer that. Like, all of it is difficult.
I've already answered it several times.
You've not proven that there is a soul. If you did, we wouldn't reject that. If you no, listen, you gave your perspective, right? You talked about your research, but you've not proven to me or Justin that there is a soul. You've not done that. If you did, we wouldn't be rejecting it. Like, we're pretty logical people. If you had evidence, we are not going to just reject the evidence and make up our own shit. Like
we didn't want to be atheists. This is just where the data led us. Like, if there was an afterlife, I'd love to believe that, like, I get to go live somewhere after I die. All I'm saying is Thinker and I want the actual evidence before we believe in it. The same reason, if I told you that the Easter bunny behind me on the shelf comes to life every April, you would need the evidence to prove that out.
Yeah. You already rejected all my evidence.
You didn't provide evidence.
I didn't see any.
I gave you 4 categories of anomalous experiences related to death. All 4 categories support the idea that humans survive physical death.
It does not. Like, you don't know how the souls talk to mediums because you don't know how they're storing memory. You don't. You literally said that with NDEs, if they go through the wormhole, they see something different and their brain comes back up and make up a story. Like, you have not.
What I said was that the brain tries to make sense of the experience, but has to use terminology that's culturally defined, because there are no words in the human language, any human language, to describe what they see precisely and exactly. So they have to use culturally intelligible language to describe something that cannot be put into words. It's called ineffability.
So did they experience that or not?
Yes, they did.
So she experienced Biggie Smalls in a blender.
She saw something that.
So the something that she saw, but the something that she saw was not Biggie Smalls in a blender.
No,
it was a notoriously big blender. Double
it would
pun.
have to be a gigantic blender, yes.
But she saw something other than that, and her brain told her it was Biggie Smalls in a blender.
That's what it looked like to her brain once she got back in her body, yes.
But it wasn't that. It was something else.
No.
Right.
Yes.
So, like, exactly. She doesn't know what she saw because her brain made up a different story. Like, you were not able to answer the question regarding how is that different from a dream.
I tried, but you interrupted me.
No, I didn't. And I'm not going to let you keep lying on us like that. No, we didn't.
Yeah, gaslighting is crazy.
Yes, you are. We were very nice to you. We were very nice to you. And you're blaming us for you not being able to prove your point here.
No.
Right.
I'm blaming you for not letting me finish my sentences.
That didn't happen either.
So, I mean, it's possible that I've interrupted you, and that's fine because I'm the asshole in this pairing. But that being said, listen, we've had you on for 50 minutes. I think it's an interesting conversation, but we don't want to drag the conversation out forever and bore the audience. We do have somebody else in the queue waiting. So
I had no
maybe
intention
think
of
about
being on here forever.
I believe you, but what I'm saying is maybe think about some of the questions we've asked you, do some research on them, and we'd love to hear when you come back the next time what the answers are, because these are actually like really important answers we need to get on board with this viewpoint.
Well, I would refer you to my published work, but I don't think you'd pursue it.
No.
Yeah. So much for peer-reviewed journal articles. Those don't count.
So much for it.
So what does count in your world?
Not your articles.
Wow. Anybody else's articles?
Depends. I like the actual research articles, like when people have actually done controlled studies, but I don't think that people's anecdotal evidences are all that valuable. So
there we go. Been waiting all day for the anecdotal word to come up.
Yep.
Yeah, I just wrote a brief paper on that topic.
I'm sure it was delightful, and I'm sure everybody in the community loves it. But
it was just
I haven't read it, so it's kind of irrelevant. I'm sure it was. So that being said, listen, we're 53 minutes in. Appreciate you calling, but seriously, next time we're up, call back with the answers of the questions, because that's our first roadblock. We get past that roadblock, we can have a more substantial conversation on our hands.
You didn't hear a single thing I said. Thank you so much.
Unfortunately, we did. Yeah. Wow,
you should really just stay Christian.
I know.
Damn, just stay Christian.
Man, oh man. Okay, well, I understand from his perspective. Like, he spent 37 years, he said, doing this research, and it's really not convincing. And he couldn't articulate the evidence properly. It sounds like he wasted a lot of time on something that is not really workable in the modern age for like scientific evidence.
It sounds like this might be his bear claw hanging on to, what he was taught growing up. And, he was a Christian. He said he started deconstructing or stopped once watching these shows. I don't know how long that's been, but this might be his bear claw. That and the fact that he dedicated his life to this.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because we're talking about the topic of God when we have these calls, and like, listen, it certainly could be the case that our spirits live on, and the fun thing is, even if that's true, God still doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, but it does raise the question. Then, I should have asked him when we had him up. When before we're born on the earth, where was our soul? Mm-hmm. And how come we don't have memories of the pre-birth? And I know he mentioned reincarnation. I'm sure he was probably going to bring up past life experiences, or I think they're called past life regressions. But I've studied those too, and they seem to always be bullshit. The only people who ever have them are children, like really young with crazy imaginations, but they have all kinds of imaginary friends. And then also people that are living in cultures that believe in reincarnation. Like, you have never seen an atheist in Saskatchewan say that they had a past life. It's not a thing that happens, right? Mm-hmm. So it seems to be cultural.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to ask him why babies don't have memories. Like, it's just even from like birth all the way up to like maybe 2 years old. Like, what happens to those memories if the soul and the brain work together? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you know what? This actually reminds me, remember when Jesus was questioned about if a man passes away and the wife has to marry the husband because of levirate marriage, and this goes on a couple times. Whose wife is she when they get to heaven, or get to the new kingdom? It's actually a very good question to ask, which is like, what are we supposed to think about these relations in the afterlife? I would have loved to hear his answer on that.
Gonna be a whole lot of reality TV shows in heaven.
That's what I'm saying. There'd be some fighting. There's a paternity test going on.
Oh my God.
Oh man. All right, we're gonna bring in Randy Aaron. He's an atheist calling up from the Great White North, Canada. If you want to call in, friends, the number is 720-619-2288. We've got some time left in the show. It's only 8:30. The last portion of the show, we're going to be reading out the super chats and interacting with the guests. So now's still a great time to call in. If you've got questions for Thinker, now's a great time to do it, since we don't have a big backlog in the queue. Thinker and I both share the same love, which is like really talking about the Bible. So if you've got a Bible question, this is a great time to call in and maybe get a useful answer. Or if you've got a Bible argument, or maybe why God is not actually evil, or the Bible might actually be true, again, great time to call in. We both love digging into the verses, and unlike most Christians, we actually know the context, so it should go pretty well. All right, I think I said Randy, but I apologize ahead of time. I think I misread. It's Brandy, not Randy, from Canada, an atheist, wants to talk about Christian families and the fact that he might not be into it, or she might not be. I'm sorry, it says they, them. I apologize, Brandy. I was trying to read this little text over here. Brandy, it sounds like you might not be a Christian, but you might be in a Christian family. Am I correct there? Oh, did we lose Brandy? I think their phone might have malfunctioned.
She said she wanted to talk about Christian families, and that the fact that they might not be into that her family might not be into it, or she might not be into it. I mean, they might not be into it.
I'm not entirely sure. So the call note says, I'm talking about, I guess, Christian families and the fact that I'm not into it. So I don't know exactly what they're referring to here, but I think their phone might be working. There we go. How you doing, Brandy?
Hi, Brandy.
I'm doing all right. I'm good. Thank you for taking my call.
Good to hear. Brandy, can you maybe kind of fill out the rest of the introductory notes here? I'm not sure I fully understand what you came in with.
Of course. My parents are religious, and I'm just trying to figure out how to talk to them, because I'm not religious, and I'm just trying to come in a common base. You know what I mean? Just trying to figure out how to, come in to where they're at, because I tried coming in as a hard atheist, and it didn't work out very good, in a way that I threw scriptures at them, and they didn't really like what I threw at them. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Thinker. I think you might have more experience at this than me when it comes to dealing with these families.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, what is your goal? Like, are you trying to get them to stop coming at you with their faith, or are you trying to change their faith? Like, what's your goal with throwing scriptures at them?
I'm not trying to change their faith necessarily. I wish that we could come to a common ground, but I don't know if we can, and I don't know how to bridge that gap, if you know what I mean. They're religious, I am not, and I don't know how to cross a bridge.
Do you know how to set boundaries?
If the bridge is worth crossing.
Sometimes it's not. It depends on who your parents are. Do you have you tried setting boundaries and just asking your parents not to talk to you about God or Jesus?
Oh yeah, 100%. We do not talk about religion, politics, anything of any substance, and that's starting to bother me because, I mean, are we just going to talk about the weather for the rest of my life? Because it's kind of boring. I don't know where to go from there, I guess.
So you're saying they don't know how to talk about anything but God or Jesus, and since y'all don't, the only thing y'all can talk about now is the weather? Is that what you're saying?
100%, 100%. And I don't know what to talk about other than quote unquote the weather. If that's what we're going to talk about for the next 30, 40 years. I mean, it's going to be kind of boring.
I don't know that I have an answer for you for that. Like, I mean, I can't. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, it is tough. Like
100%.
So, like, my family's religious, and we do talk about the topic quite a bit. We don't really argue about it, but like, if you did bring up your views, like if they're talking about religious stuff and you're bringing up your views, are they at least polite with you, or do they give you a hard time?
Aggressive, very aggressive. I'm a sinner. I'm a apostate. I'm a heretic. Yeah, no, It's not going very good when I talk to them about that.
Well, I think family dynamics are different for everybody, but I can tell you what I've tried to do as an atheist, especially because even when I was a believer, I used to get accosted by other religious believers all the time with fringe viewpoints. I remember I'd go to like weddings and people would hear that like I went to seminary, and then they'd want to debate me at the wedding about something, right? So like I'm pretty used to this. And here's the one thing I would suggest, which is whatever your position is, you need to be the most knowledgeable person on that position, so that when they come at you, you can bring them facts and evidence, and then also write down your sources. One of the reasons why I have a cheat sheet that is available to my channel members is because it's got actual sources for all the stuff you need, so that when somebody says like, hey, this is what I believe, I think you're wrong, you can show them the sources and be like, hey, listen, here's what I believe, here's the reason why I believe it, here are the scholars that have done the work for it. And if you can, I won't say overwhelm, but if you could really overwhelm them with good scholarly information, eventually they're either going to stop coming to you because you have good rebuttals, or you might actually just cause them to start engaging with you honestly. So like the people in my orbit that will talk religion with me are people that are genuinely curious to talk about religion with me, because they know they're not going to come in and do some gaslighting stuff and not get called out on it. But that's because I put the work in, right? So you're in a tough position right now where you might have to put all the work in if you want to kind of get rid of the onslaught of people accosting you for being an atheist. Because the reality is, these people haven't done any of the work. They don't have no idea what they're talking about. People haven't even read this book. Really, all you can do, you could literally just read the Bible, and you're already going to know more than 90% of Christians. Christians aren't reading this book.
Yeah, I mean, my father is. He's a religious fella that does Bible study like 2 times a week and whatnot, which I'm not dependent on, thank God, I guess. That's not quite right. But like, no, I'm not financially dependent on these people or anything else. It's just, I really don't understand. The more I read, the more I'm just like, what? Like, it's just, it's quite mind blowing, the fact that they read this and the words don't seem to make sense to them. Like, it's just words, and it's quite opposite of what they think. I don't know.
It sounds like you're saying you're trying to find something to talk to your parents about because of the arguing and the boundaries that y'all have set, you're like, now that we've set this boundary that they're not going to talk to me about God or Jesus, I'm not going to talk to them about God and Jesus. Now I don't know what to talk to my parents about, and y'all's relationship is strained.
100%, 100%. We do not live in the same province. We do not really get along, and I don't really know if we even like each other. Like, you know what I mean?
Like, are you feeling guilty for not liking your parents?
Yeah, kind of a little bit. Like, I don't even like them. They're not really great humans. It's like, I kind of feel guilty.
You ain't gotta feel guilty for that.
Yeah.
Like, everybody don't like their parents. Like, I know, I think this is a part of the religion too. Like, we're kind of taught, like the whole children to honor your parents, and, you have to, no matter what your parents do or say to you, you have to, respect them or love them anyway. And you can love your parents and respect them with a long handle spoon, but you don't have to feel guilty for not liking your parents. If they're harmful in their thoughts and, their actions and to you or to society, why would you subjugate yourself to them? Why would you subject
100%. I feel like a lot of times when I talk to my parents, like, they might be perhaps great people, but they're not great friends for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're great parents, but they're not good friends for me.
And that's okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. And I mean, we're, as kids, like,
I'm 20 years old, but I still have a hard time with, like, just like my parents. I want to be accepted, but I'm not accepted. I'm the black sheep. I'm like the astronaut. I'm out there, and my parents don't understand, and I'm just having a hard time just being that black sheep, just being out there, and just being like, it's okay to be effed up sometimes. If your parents don't like you, it's okay. You don't have to. I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. When I was in seminary, I had to take counseling to learn how to counsel people. The one thing I learned that I'll never forget is sometimes you're not, like, I'm not a licensed professional therapist, which means I'm not really qualified to go into some of these
call
things.
988 if you're in Canada. 988 suicide hotline.
But my point is, there's actually a lot of good organizations out there that might actually be able to lend, like, good professional help, like Recovering from Religion and the Secular Therapy Project. Or I've got a good friend named Dr. Joanne Ketch, who is associated with our Discord group and our channel, where she specifically works with deconstructing people and people also that are recovering from substance abuse. These are really difficult topics to engage in, that I think 100%. This would be a really good thing to talk with, like, a licensed professional therapist who actually specializes in this field. And there are resources for it. I don't know if I'm capable of giving you an adequate answer, knowing how limited, my training is.
Oh, Justin, you're the best. Don't worry about it. Love you guys.
I'll always try, but I'm limited.
Everything's great. I'm just trying to find my place in kind of a God footprinted world, I guess. Yeah. Even though it's not America, it's kind of similar.
Right.
Yeah, kind of feels lonely sometimes, but I'm thankful that you guys are here, and I will reach out to Dr. Joe then.
Yeah, I highly recommend reaching out to a therapist that specializes in this particular field. She's a great one, and she's not just a licensed professional therapist. She went to seminary like me. Like, she's really familiar with Christian culture. She's really familiar with dynamics.
Yeah. So, and if anybody in Canada is dealing with suicide HOSTility or whatever. It's 988. Just call or text 988.
Right. Yeah,
That's
that's
all I
actually
got.
really helpful.
You guys rule.
Brandy,
And recovering for religion is dope.
best of luck to you. You know, we really want the best for you. We know this is a difficult position to be in, but do reach out if you need anything.
I will probably reach out to Dr. Joe because perhaps some resources or more provincial resources might help out in these particular situations. Thank you so much.
Right.
Have a
Cheers,
good
friend.
one, Brandy.
Yeah, that's tough, and it's difficult for me to always know how to respond because my experience was that I didn't get a hard time from my family and friends. Like they respected my wishes. I don't know what I would do if they were the opposite.
Yeah, I can relate to her because I was that black sheep child, and I had to block family, and family blocked me as we went through this. But I had to eventually tell myself that I had to do what I had to do to make sure that I'm sane and peace in my mind so I could sleep at night. Like, what matters was I'm the one with myself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I have to be okay. So I have to be okay with them not being okay with me.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes you might just have to accept that the relationship might not be repairable, and that's, it might be beyond your control. So we've got two people in the queue. We've got Arn from Washington, who is an atheist, and it sounds like there might be another atheist in the screening room. So we're going to bring in Arn, and let's see. The question is, this should be a fun one. Is it true that early Christianity and Judaism were good for feminism? This is an argument a friend of mine makes. So I'd love to hear more about this. Arn, you're on the line with Justin Thinker. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, good.
Arn, how are you?
Excellent. Awesome. A friend made a remark in another podcast about he's a good guy. He's not a mega dude, but he's Irish Catholic, he always likes to say. And, he made this remark about how the early Christian church and Judaism was good for feminism. And I'm an atheist, and I've never really gave a shit about the Bible or anything like that. So I was just trying to find a good way to reply to him. From what I've listened to all these shows, that it didn't sound like it actually was.
Yeah, Thinker, what are your thoughts? Also, I don't know if your microphone is working. I heard you said something, but I didn't hear it.
Oh, no, I was saying,
There you go.
He's saying that early Judaism is good for feminism. Say that again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he made that remark.
Is he referring to the story of the daughters of Zelophehad who fought for them to have like land rights or something? Like, why is he saying that? I don't.
He's like not a mega evangelical Christian. He's tries to paint the Bible as a good thing.
I'm just wondering where, like, why he specifically said Judaism, like early Judaism, was for that.
Yeah,
did he say why?
No, it was just a couple minutes. He threw it out to reply to a different question that was asked earlier. But it was just he's a good friend, and I just want to next time I talk to him, I just want to be able to throw out like I don't think you're quite correct in your reply.
Gotcha.
And I'm just looking
for
like
ammunition.
What?
Oh, he's looking for ammunition. Oh, okay.
Oh, we can do that. That ain't no problem.
Yeah.
Well, I've got some verses on the ready, and I know Thinker's going to have some for sure. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that autonomy for women is good? Because the Bible doesn't. The autonomy is not there. Like, for example, in Deuteronomy 25, if your husband dies, you're required to marry the brother of your deceased husband so that he can carry on his lineage, which is preposterous. Also, women are allowed to be kidnapped in war. Deuteronomy 21 talks about this, verse 10 and beyond. Numbers 31, you're allowed to kidnap women in war, little virgin girls in war. And what I think one example that I think is egregious that sometimes gets overlooked because it seems to be about slavery, but it's actually more difficult than that, is Exodus 21 verse 7 through 11, when it's talking about how you can literally sell your daughter as a concubine. Concubines are little more than glorified sex slaves in the ancient world. This certainly cannot be good for feminism. And what do you think, Thinker?
Yeah, I agree with all of those. Also, Numbers 30, where the husband or the father can invalidate a woman's vow to her own God. The valuations in Leviticus 27, like when the God puts valuations on humans, women, even female babies, are valued lower than males. The women in ancient Israel could not inherit land until the daughters of Zelophehad had their mini social justice movement, and Yahweh is like, yeah, they're right. They should be able to get land until they marry an Israelite man, and then the land goes to him. Like they couldn't even keep their father's inheritance. Like that. I don't see feminism. Even Deborah's story was made about her husband being like a failure. And the reason why she was chosen. And I think it even talks about her being a mother. It points to her being a mother. Like it feminized her. Women are seen as problematic if for like, let's take Delilah for example. Delilah is of enemy. She's of the enemy nation, right? She isn't in a relationship with Samson. There's nowhere in this story where she alludes to being in a relationship or in love with Samson, but Samson's in love with her. And because she is the one that agreed to help them lock Samson up, to find out his secret and lock him up, even though she didn't use any sexuality at all, right? Like she didn't sleep with him. She was very upfront. Tell me where you get your strength so I can have you locked up. She said that to him 4 times. She never lied to him. And she's seen as the betrayer, as a prostitute. Like she's called the whore. And she's demonized for that. Jael, if we look at Jael does use her body to help the Israelites fight their enemy. She drives a nail in his head after riding him to sleep, and she's praised. So if as long as a woman is willing to use their body, to help the men, she's good. If she uses her body to help herself, she's demonized. So I don't see how it's it's good for feminists at all.
Yeah, no, I was totally kind of blown away when you said that remark. But like I said, I don't have a working knowledge of the Bible or anything like that.
I would, maybe the only other thing I would add, those are great points, although, Thinker, I actually didn't consider that point with Jael versus Delilah. The New Testament, because I reckon that your friend might be like, well, that's the Old Testament, right? But in the New Testament, we don't see stuff that's much better. So like in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, Paul says, women should be silent in the churches, for they're not permitted to speak, but should be subordinate, as the law also says. If there are something they want to learn, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is shameful for a woman to speak in church. What a preposterous thing to say, that this is good for women. And then in First Timothy chapter 2, there's this crazy thing about women trying to explain why they're subordinate. And it says, let a woman learn in silence, in full submission. I did not permit a woman to teach, or I do not permit a woman to teach or to have authority over a man. She is to keep silent. For Adam was formed first, then Eve, and Adam was not deceived, but the woman was deceived and became a transgressor. Yet she will be saved through childbearing, provided they continue in faith, love, and holiness with self-control. So what a weird thing that Paul thinks that women should be subservient to men merely because she was the one that was deceived in the garden.
Yeah, no, I remember the Timothy one, but yeah, no, it was a very, no, it just shows how men have been dicks for such a long time. But yeah, no, that's, I'm very grateful you guys could do that for me. I'll replay the video so I can write them all down. But no, it was just like, he's not a dick. He's a good friend, and I just want to, he's good at debating, going back and forth and stuff like that. And I just wanted some ammo for the next time we talk.
Yeah, for sure. Well, best of luck to you. I mean, if it goes well, next time you see us, ring us up and let us know how it went.
Yeah, ask him to find the test that. Ask him to find the law that tests the man's virginity on his wedding night.
Yeah, great trick question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Right, have a great one, friend.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Yeah, that's interesting. It is interesting. Like, I suspect even just spending 10 minutes on the phone with us will give him more ammunition than his friend is capable of dealing with. Because, again, we've seen these believers have not read the book. They have no idea what's in it. They issue blanket statements without even knowing what they're talking about.
Yeah, and that's frustrating because because we want to be able to challenge these thoughts so that we can challenge what we think we know, but we can't do that because they don't read the book. And,
right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this because, do you remember the band Sonic Flood?
Mm.
They were like a worship band, but they were targeting like young people back in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And they said this thing, and you and I have heard it a million times, where they make the claim that originally the U.S. legal system was based on biblical laws.
Oh.
And I used to believe that nonsense when I was younger. It's preposterous, right? But like, I only believed it because I hadn't read the damn Bible yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's really easy to make claims about things you haven't actually read, and then to pray and hope that the other person hasn't read it.
I actually have a shirt that I made this past week. It has a demon claw on it, and it says "You believe because you don't read." And in my merch shop, because that's why they believe, because they don't read. They don't read.
Isn't it wild? The Bible says faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the reading of the Word of God, or hearing by the Word of God. But like, the more I studied the Word of God, the more I lost my faith. Like that can't be true.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot in that book that isn't true, because the part that talks about they will, like, in the last days, they'll reject sound doctrine, or they'll reject knowledge to believe a lie. Like, I feel like they took that from some anti-Greek philosopher in like 200 AD and turned it around and made it their word of God to make it about heretics, because they reject knowledge for the sake of hanging on to their belief. They've even gotten to the point where they're rejecting what's in the book.
Right.
Like, that's
crazy.
Got to be written about them, and
we've seen that a lot. We're gonna get our atheist in here in just a second, but we've seen this a lot where Christians, like, when you really start to point out the problems, they'll even start to cannibalize their own faith. But like, well, we don't know if that's what God really said. That's what people said He said in the Bible. Wait a minute. Like, did He say it or did He not?
Right. Yeah.
They're so desperate to hold on to it. So we've got
deceive. No, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. Words never mean words. That's just That's how it is.
Yeah.
Let's bring in Raziel. Is he, him, all the way from Colorado, is a theist and is asking, how is God immoral? And I have a sneaky suspicion I kind of know where this conversation is going. But Raziel, you're on the line with Justin and Thinker. How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
Doing well.
Doing well. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
All
cool.
right, so you're asking us the question, how is God immoral? I don't know if we made the claim that God is immoral. I would say things like God is a monster, God is absolute barbarian, God is unjust. I would say things like that. I don't know if I would make a blanket statement that God is immoral, only because I'm a moral subjectivist.
Oh, you're a moral subjectivist. That's interesting. So then how could you claim that something is like barbarian or unjust if you're a moral subjectivist?
Because those have actually like real definitions.
Oh, they have real definitions? Wouldn't that make them objective?
No. Words can exist objectively, but that doesn't mean that like the word barbarian is objective somehow. So let's get back. We'll do the basics here.
Can the meaning of barbarian change? Like, could I use it to describe like a warrior?
That's why I said it's not objective.
So that would make it subjective.
So that's why I said it's not objective. All right, so just follow along here. Let's talk about first.
Words have objective. I'm sorry, you said words that are objective. They have objective meanings.
I said they have meanings, and those meanings are defined by us. So when we're going to define those words for you, because it sounds like you're having a little bit of trouble. So when we talk about objective and subjective,
with the definition of subjective and objective.
Yeah, sure. So let's talk about the definitions of subjective and objective. If it's objective, that just means it exists independent of a mind. It's completely stance independent. If it's subjective, then it is certainly dependent on the mind, which is why the definition of words do in fact exist, and we have those definitions, even though they are subjective. They can change from culture to culture or from time period. But when you and I are using words in the same language, you and I have a shared experience in that we both know what the meaning of the word is. You and I can look at a dictionary and say, the way we're using this word is going to be the same. That has nothing to do with whether or not they exist independent of a mind. Now, I only bring this up because I wanted to talk a little bit first, because it sounds like what you're going to do is try to frame the argument under a claim that we never made. I don't think I made the claim, nor did Thinker make the claim that God is objectively immoral. But the question I have for you is, why would we believe that objective morals even exist?
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I think you cut out there for a second. Let's just go with the unjust one that you claimed.
So are you going to answer my question?
God is unjust.
Are you going to answer my question?
No, you just claimed God is unjust.
No, I'm not going to answer your question. So my question was really easy, which is, why would we believe that morals are objective?
If morals are not objective, then nothing would make sense, right?
That's literally not true.
Because it would just be changing. You would just have a changing standard.
Nothing making sense is a different category as morals.
Are you going to let me answer, or are you just going to talk over me?
No, I'm not going to let you answer, because I'm trying to help you understand that the statement that you started with is a ridiculous statement.
You don't want to let me answer because you're afraid of the answer.
No one's afraid of the answer. We're trying to get you to not say 10 dumb things in a row, and we're stopping you at the first dumb thing. So morals are independent of all things. You can't say that nothing makes sense if morals aren't objective. Morals is a subset of things. You can't judge all things based on a subset of a group. So what we're asking you about is, how can one know that morals are in fact objective? Because it sounds like you've assumed that they're objective, but you don't have a good reason to believe that they are.
Now, let me explain. So when you make a statement such as God is unjust, you're making it objectively. You're saying he is unjust, not that it's just your opinion, because who cares about your opinion? You have to prove it objectively, right? So I'm asking you to then claim, like, show me how you objectively.
Just to make sure, then you're not going to answer my question. You're just going to run from it like a coward.
No, I just answered it. You just don't like the answer.
No. I didn't hear an answer. I heard a complaint. So I want to hear, what's the argument that would lead one to believe that morals are objective?
I just told you they have to be objective for you to make a claim that there's such a thing as injustice.
You made an error about the word justice.
No,
so,
you made
again, I'm asking you about morals,
but you can't back up that claim. And when I'm
I actually can back up that claim. I can back up.
All the atheists
I gotta fucking mute him again.
Scared of it.
So I can and I will back up my statement that God is unjust. But what I'm trying to help you understand is that claim doesn't require objective morals. That claim only requires me to know the definition of just and unjust. And that definition is something that you and I are going to agree on. That's like if I say this pen is blue, we know what blue means. If I said this pen is not blue, we know what that means. We know the definition of justice. We know the definition of unjust. Those are independent on whether or not morals are objective. That's a whole different topic, which is why we're not there yet. I'm not going to let you pivot away from answering my question until you actually give me an answer related to my question. Listen, I do this for a living. I'm more than happy to show you how God is unjust, but we're not on that yet. We're still trying to figure out why anyone would believe that morals are objective, and just making a statement like the way I use words proves that morals are objective. That's not an argument for objective morals. You understand? Oh, hold on. It didn't unmute.
Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Okay. I completely disagree with that, because one thing you said is we all agree on what the meaning of justice is. We don't. There's no consensus on justice.
Didn't say that.
Yeah, but you said we both know what the meaning is.
I said you and I. Right? I said you and I can agree on the meaning of justice. So what I'm hearing right now is that you're still not actually going to answer my question.
I do not agree with
what you're going to do is you're going to endlessly evade answering my question. What you're going to do is not take on the burden. You're not going to take on, and you're just going to not shut up, and you're going to try to shift the burden like a big coward. So again, the question that I have for you is whether or not you have an argument or a reason to believe that morals are objective. My definition of justice has nothing to do with whether or not morals are objective. And again, once you actually answer my question, you actually give me an argument for morals being objective, I'm more than happy to go into the Bible and demonstrate to you, based on the definition of the word justice, how God is unjust. But we're never going to get there until you put your big boy panties on and actually answer the question of why should we think morals are objective?
Okay, let me ask you this. Is your statement that you asked me your question, is it true?
The fucking loopholes. Objective truth is different than objective morals. Try to focus.
Answer the question. Is it true?
He's read too many Frank Turek books, and he wants to get a gotcha moment. Again, objective truth is different than objective morals. We're talking about objective morals. So you're the one not answering a question. So we're still asking you for the 15th time. We're still asking you for the 15th time. Can you provide an argument or a reason for objective morals? Keep in mind that objective morals are a different topic than objective truth. Those are two different things. I'm not questioning whether or not objective truth exists. I'm questioning whether or not objective morals exist. They're not the same thing. Can you actually give me an argument for that?
Do you believe in objective
no one heard
truth?
You. I'm not answering your question until you answer mine.
Truth?
I'm not answering your question until you answer mine, buddy.
You didn't answer my question. You're too scared to answer it because you're a scared atheist.
So here's what's going to do. You won't answer a single question, and you're projecting now. You're literally outside, walking around, heavy panting. so that your family can't hear you make a ridiculous phone call. And now I'm just going to go into the Bible and show you where God is unjust. Before we do that, I really would like to hear an answer for you. What do you think unjust is, and what do you think just is? So if I gave you a scenario, could you tell me if a scenario is just or unjust?
You still haven't answered my question, dumb atheist.
He's never going to answer mine. Can you tell me what unjust means?
Can you tell me if you can prove anything logically as an atheist?
Here comes the priest. He's so cowardly, he won't actually engage in debate. Imagine being such a coward that rather than actually engaging in discussion, you just constantly pivot by avoiding the conversation. Do you know the definition of justice?
No, you just want to move the conversation to something.
I want to know why it makes them so mad that we don't believe in their God. Like, is their belief dependent on us also believing with them? Like, to the point where they get this damn rude, like over the top. Like, I don't understand why they crash out like this. Like, do they need us to believe with them so that it makes it more real for them?
Yeah, I agree. They're crashing out because he realized he actually has no leg to stand on in the conversation, and it terrifies him that the atheist could actually be right, which is why now that I'm actually trying to engage in his question from 10 minutes ago about can you prove that God is unjust? Now he's refusing to actually engage in it because he didn't come up for conversation. He came up to fucking panic outside in the wilderness.
Yeah.
This is what you guys do every time you mute people and you don't answer the fucking question.
No, we mute you.
Like a coward. You're a fucking coward, dude.
We mute you because you're incapable of engaging like an actually adult. So
no, you could never win in a debate.
Do you want me to engage in whether or not... here it comes.
Will you answer my question?
Hey, which God do you believe in?
Will you answer my fucking question?
Which God do you believe in?
You're scared, bro.
I'm trying to answer your question, and you won't actually engage.
No, you didn't. You won't fucking answer it.
I'm doing it right now. You wanted me to demonstrate how God is unjust. Would you like to fucking do that?
No, I asked you a different fucking question.
No, don't do that. He complained for 5 minutes. Prove that God is unjust. The minute I start actually engaging in that pivot, he's fucking terrified of it. No. Let me ask you another question. Let me go to my precept script. Let me go to my daddy Darth Dawkins script because I don't actually want to engage in the conversation. This is so sad. Imagine being this level of brain rot. So here's what's going to happen, Raziel. Like, you're literally a waste of time, and we actually do have real adults in the queue. So I'm going to ask you a question. If you don't answer the question, it will result in an immediate drop. We're done. We're not going to entertain this nonsensical waste of time longer than we have to. It's an easy question. Which God do you believe in?
Christ.
There we go. Fantastic. And would you like to talk about whether or not this God is unjust? Because that was something you brought up.
We were talking about that, but you didn't like how it went. So you're trying to steer it somewhere else.
It didn't went anywhere because it was a deviation from the previous talking point. Now I'm willing to entertain your second question or your second demand, and it sounds like you don't want to. So again, do you want to talk about the God of the Bible being just or unjust?
Yes.
Awesome. Let's do it. What's your definition of just?
God.
That's not a definition. I reject your definition. Try again.
My definition.
Why should I accept your definition when the dictionary gives us a definition for English?
Why should I accept the dictionary?
Because that's the language we speak. We decide what words mean, and in the English language, we have decided as a culture that justice isn't God. God is a different word.
That's a fallacy.
That's not a fallacy. Name the fallacy.
Yeah, that's an appeal to the masses. They're just saying because a group of people believe in this, specifically English-speaking people, that therefore it's true. Yeah, that's a fallacy.
It's an appeal to the meaning of words. So you're saying that the word justice should mean something other than the definition that we've decided as a species.
Masses, that's why it's
the definition of words are used. In English, when we look up a word in the English dictionary and we use it according to the English dictionary, that's just what the word means. Like, we've determined what the word means. And the word justice doesn't mean God. That's not how we use the word in English. So again, sounds like you don't have a good answer, but my question is, why would we accept a new definition of justice that is not even in our dictionary? What would compel us to accept that definition?
If someone rewrote the meaning of justice,
he was
in
talking the entire time.
Something else, would that make it true?
If the word justice had a changed definition, we would use a different word.
Yeah. So your whole appeal is to a book, like the dictionary.
My appeal is not to a book,
and that's subjective. That's subjective.
It's not. So just shut up for 5 seconds. This is crazy that you can't get this. If the word justice changed, I would use a different word to convey the concept I'm talking about. The concept that I'm talking about is whether or not it's fair to do something. So if you give somebody a punishment or you give somebody a reward and it is proportional and deserving, we typically refer to that as a just outcome. Now, you might just change the fucking definition of justice, and then I would create a new word, because what I'm talking about is whether or not something is in fact fair. In our modern language, when we talk about something being just, we're essentially saying that the thing is fair and deserved, right? Now, you can define that in any way you want to. That's the concept we're talking about. So when we say God is either just or unjust, we're saying he either acts fairly or he doesn't act fairly. And that's our definition of the word just. We're not going to accept a different definition of just. Do you believe that God always acts fairly?
You cut out there. When you started talking,
do you believe that God acts fairly?
Yes. See how you won't answer any of my questions when you mute me, and then just keep asking your own questions.
We mute you because what you want to do is steamroll the conversation, and we're not going to let you do it. So what's going to happen is you're going to get muted every time you try to talk over me, because unlike the previous guests, we didn't have to mute anybody. You're getting muted, right? And I bet this happens in like your everyday life. This is why you're walking outside having this conversation, because your family doesn't tolerate you. So what's going to happen is you're going to get the treatment that you deserve right now, which is being muted so that the opposition can actually respond to your points. You're trying to make points, and then when we respond to them, or when I respond to them, you just don't let me fucking respond because you're unbearable. So again, this is not difficult. All I'm asking you, in order to get to the conversation we're trying to have, I need to know, do you think God acts fairly in all cases? Because that's how we're going to decide whether or not God is just. Do you understand the nature of this problem?
I reject your question altogether because it's loaded.
Yeah, it's not loaded. Do you believe that God acts fairly in all situations?
It absolutely is. It absolutely is loaded because you haven't proved what fair is.
Do you think that God acts fairly in all situations?
What does fair mean to a bunch of particles in motion?
I'm asking you.
Which is what you are.
Do you believe that God behaves fairly?
I answered it like a million times. Yes.
It's yes. Idiot. Okay. Fantastic. And I love how this guy claims to be a Christian, but he never actually read Colossians. Do you know what Colossians tells you? Have you read chapter 3? It says, you must get rid of all such things: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and abusive language from your mouth. Colossians 3:12. God has created chosen ones, holy and beloved, so clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Do you think those are characteristics that you have exhibited today? I think Jesus is proud of you right now.
When do I get to ask you a question?
I asked you a question. Do you think Jesus is proud of you right now? Do you think your behavior is becoming of a Christian?
Like 20 questions in a row, which I answered, and I don't get to ask a single one. You're not answering
any questions.
Boy with a mute button.
So again,
with a mute button.
So you don't have a response to Colossians, which is fine. So right now, what we're going to do is I'm going to read you a Bible passage. But before we do that, I need a really answer, like a good answer to a question, right? If you commit a crime, would it be okay to punish somebody that didn't commit the crime? Like, say, for example, you committed a crime. Would it be okay for, like, your cousin who had nothing to do with it to be locked up for it?
Did you ask me how many questions and I don't get to ask you one?
He'll never answer a single question. So, all right, tell you what, I'm going to count to 5, and then when I get to 5, I'm going to let you ask whatever question you want to, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What I dropped him, by the way. What a
I figured
absolute POS.
Yeah, he was a straight piece of. I don't quite understand I don't get it. Like, you call in here just to whine about people being atheists and not actually say shit. Like, that was a waste.
Well, once he realized we were happy to actually engage with his initial question about whether or not God is immoral or unjust, he had to immediately switch to, oh, no, I need to do precept script now. They actually wanted to read the Bible with me. We can't do that. Now I have to switch to, what do you do? Objective truth exist? Yeah. Like, what an unrelated question.
And then defining justice as God, like, that's about as bad as saying you can't question the God because he's sovereign. Like, I don't know.
That's crazy. I don't even know. I tried to make notes on these clowns so that later I can remember what the conversation was about. I don't even know what to write for this. So, like, what do you say about a guy who comes in and avoids all questions and cries that atheists exist and won't let them command the control of the conversation?
Like, I don't know what to call him, but I don't know what to call him. Like, he's an immature. He's mad that somebody said his imaginary friend isn't real. Like, he's like, he reminds me of one of those kids. It's like, find out that Santa Claus isn't real, and he goes home and goes, "Mom, they said Santa's not real." Like, he remind me of that, and it's like, you dumb Santa blocker.
That's 100% it. Yeah. Oh man!
He's like, dumb atheist. You dumb atheist, you ruined my fairy tale. You dumb atheist. Like, that's what he reminds me of.
That's 100% what happened. We've got 2 callers in queue. I'm going to see if we can grab both of them because I don't think they're going to take terribly long. And then I think we'll have just enough time left to read super chats. So I'm going to grab Daniel first. Daniel's an atheist calling from New York and has a question for Thinker about the Garden in Eden story, or the Garden of Eden. So, Daniel, you're on the line with Justin and Thinker. How are you?
Hi, Thinker. Hi, Justin. Let me take you off speakerphone. Hey, how are you guys doing this evening?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Well, I got a question for Thinker, but first I got important business with the man on the panel. Justin, I got to you because I listened to Matt Dillahunty, and when I listened to Matt, I got into Godless Engineer, and then I saw you on Godless Engineer, and that's how I got into you, and then you told me about Thinker, which changed my life forever. So
she has that effect on people.
I can't thank you enough. There's no amount of thanks in the world enough for steering me towards Thinker. So for that, you'll forever have my thanks. And yeah, Thinker, you know me as Show Dan. I'm a regular in the chat, but you had mentioned once that you read somewhere that the person who stopped Abraham from killing Isaac was Samael. Do you remember where you found that reference?
Yeah, it's in the Midrash. In the Talmud, Safaria.org.
In the Talmud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
It's on Safaria.org. I put it in the Discord.
Yeah, I'm not in Discord. I'm not cool. Well, I wondered if you heard a different thing about Samael. There's some ancient writing. Well, I don't know how ancient. It's a medieval Rabbanim, but they think that they were pulling from ancient sources that no longer exist. Like there's this rabbi named Rabbi Ben Yaakov Cohen who was writing about Lilith, and he writes like in the 13th century that Lilith was born as the feminine side of Samael, and like they were twin spirits, and they were the counterparts to Adam and Eve, and they were like the I don't know, I want to say the forces of temptation or evil counterparts. They were like a mirror of Adam and Eve, but for things that were bad or evil. But she originally was meant for Adam, and that she didn't want to submit herself to Adam, and so she ran off and hooked up with Samael, and they became like a thing. Have you ever heard that?
I have heard that. Yeah, I've heard that angle before. But it was like the demon god. I don't know if they named it Samael. But there is a tradition in the Talmud as well that does talk about that. Where they got to arguing because she didn't want to be on. She wanted to be on top. He wanted to be on top. And she grew wings and flew off. Yeah, and had demon babies.
And then joined him, which I guess he wasn't described as Samuel in every account. But and also there was a name, I don't remember. I remember learning back when I studied like Epic of Gilgamesh and that kind of thing. That there was a name for gods that were like a single god that had like a masculine side and a feminine side, and the same god. Like they would literally depict the god with two faces, a feminine face on one side and a masculine face on the other. I don't remember what the name of those gods are, but that's literally how they originally described the introduction of Lilith and Samael. At least that's what I'm understanding from this writing. I don't know. I have to look into it more. It's very hard to find English versions of these old transcripts.
I'm not sure what type of god, what type of deity that would be. I don't know, Justin. Do you know a deity that has both male and female faces?
I'm not sure. This sounds like Kabbalistic lore. So I'm pretty familiar with some of the early...
It is Kabbalistic. Yes.
Yeah. I'm pretty familiar with the early lore, like the stuff that originated in the ancient Near East and that gets later appropriated into the Hebrew culture. I'm not very familiar with like medieval or Kabbalistic lore. That's not something I've ever spent a lot of time on, so I don't know if I can help you with that one.
Yeah.
All right. I'll keep doing some research and see what I can find out.
Sure. Absolutely.
I had one more thing, if I could take one more minute. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say I do know the story of Lilith from the Talmud. I think it's probably the same one that Thinker knows. That's in Midrash Bekudish or Bekudush. You can find it on Safaria for sure. But I don't know if it tells the identical same story, and I don't know how it would line up with Kabbalistic teaching.
Right. You said Bekudish?
Yeah, it's Bechiddush. Bakidush.
Okay. Got it. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And
also,
Thinker... go ahead.
For these topics, this is one of those things. I don't recommend using like AI all the time, but this is one of those questions that I actually think you can get some resources if you use like ChatGPT. When it comes to these ancient sources, they're all in the open domain, right? So it means ChatGPT has access to them. It should be able to find you the sources.
Okay, that's a good idea. I try to stay away from ChatGPT or ChatGPT, I'll call it, but maybe that's a good idea for this type of stuff because it ends up on like the archive and stuff.
It's not smart. It doesn't know anything. It can't give you good answers, but it can at least help you find resources typically.
Right, sources. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Perfect. And Thinker asked the most insane question I think I like. Literally mind-blown moment that I've probably ever had regarding this ancient idiotic religion was that why was Eve sitting there contemplating the fruit that she thought that if she ate it, it would kill her? Like, unless she thought that that was something that maybe she was thinking might be a good idea. And it kind of blew my mind. It literally blew my mind. Like,
it's a good question.
Lilith took off. She didn't want to be there. And it sounds like Eve didn't want to be there either. And she was thinking of a different way out. And it rocked my world.
Well, we're glad that you're, yeah, she is.
Yeah. She asked the tough questions.
Yeah, that is indeed the case. Well, Dana, thanks for calling in and chat with us. We're going to get to our last guest, but again, I can't recommend enough.
Out of the way, but
yeah. All right, cheers.
Yeah,
friend.
I will check those resources.
Oh, I just dropped him while I was talking. The delay is rough, but I agree, y'all. If you're not watching Thinker's live stream, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. We've got one last guest, Jade from perhaps Utah, it looks like, and is an agnostic and is asking an interesting question, which is, are Mormons really Christians? Welcome on, Jade. You're online with Justin and Thinker. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for asking.
Doing good.
So,
how are you?
You're asking if the Mormons are Christians, right?
Yeah, so I was raised Mormon and I have a lot of like past trauma with the way that I was raised. And I have a lot of friends who kind of discount my trauma and say that I need to be Christian because they basically blame any issues that I have with Christianity on Mormonism not truly being Christian. And my argument would be that Mormonism is Christianity or a branch of Christianity, and I was just kind of curious from people that have been to seminary, and this is my first time listening to either of the two of you, so what I've gathered is that you have a lot of knowledge with this, but you no longer are supporting Christianity. I guess I'm curious what your view on with what you've learned and what you know about Mormonism is on that subject.
That's a fair question. I have a really short answer, so I'm going to let Thinker go first. Mine's only going to take like 2 sentences.
I think, from my understanding, a Christian is someone who believes that Jesus is the Son of God and follows his teachings. And so, despite the fact that Mormons have a different doctrine, so do Protestants, different denominations of Protestants. So I do consider Mormons to be Christians because they follow Jesus and believe that Jesus is God. They just got the message a different way than other Christians. So I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I kind of agree. I think Mormonism is an extension of Christianity as much as Christianity is an extension of Judaism. If you think that Christianity is a form of Judaism, or like, some people would say it's perfected Judaism, then yeah, by the same token, the Mormons can be Christians. I agree. If you believe in Jesus Christ, you believe he died, rose from the dead, he's saved you from your sins, you're a Christian. You can look at the Bible and come up with all sorts of different types of Christian, but you're a Christian.
It's kind of like saying cereal isn't really cereal because it's called Frosted Flakes, in a blue box, and it has a tiger on the front. Like, no, different brand of Christianity.
But what if we put marshmallows in it?
It's marshmallow Christians. No.
Marshmallow brain sometimes.
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, hope that answers your question. That's kind of what I think Thinger and I obviously agree on this.
Yeah, and that goes right in line with what my feelings are on it as well. I guess the other question that I have there, though, is, so I have a lot of Christian friends who look at the way that I was raised, and they're able to see that God and the way that it was presented to me as a child is an abusive father. But they're not able to see that reflected in their own religion and kind of blame, the Book of Mormon esoteric knowledge that Mormons claim to have. But in my mind, like, their version of God is so similar to the version I was raised with that I am kind of dumbfounded as to how they don't see what they're pointing out to me applicable to their religious upbringing as well.
Yeah, I think, Thinker, I think you've said this before, and I know I've said it before. It's like Christianity is Stockholm Syndrome. Like, it's clearly an abusive relationship, and they've convinced themselves through gaslighting that this thing loves them. It does not.
Yeah, but I understand what they're saying. Like, they are able to look outward and point at other people's faults when it comes to their belief systems, but they're incapable of looking at themselves and seeing that they are doing the gaslighting and that what they believe in is harmful. Today, I was talking to another believer who was saying that, who was advocating for women being submissive to their husbands. And she quoted Ephesians 5:22. And I asked her, like, in a situation where a woman has to have a hysterectomy and the doctors won't give the woman the hysterectomy because her husband has to make the decision because maybe he wants more children. What does God tell him to do in that situation? And she was like, why are you, she's like, that doesn't even make sense. That's not even analogous. Like, she couldn't even see how that real life situation that's happening right now in the world, by the way, a hospital canceled a woman's hysterectomy because they want to preserve her sacred fertility. And her husband has to make the decision. But she doesn't see how her belief system affects the world today. They can't see the harm in their own beliefs, but they will point out the beliefs, and like they'll say Jehovah's Witness are not Christian, quick, fast, and in a hurry. And they'll point out all they let people die because they don't get blood transfusions, while not understanding how allowing a man to make decisions for his wife's health without giving her the ability to do so also kills people. Does that make sense? Like, does that make sense?
It does. And I guess, like, the logic that both of you use to explain why Mormons are Christian, that they see Christ as their savior, is the same logic that I tried to use to appeal to them to say, like, why I still don't really feel comfortable with the idea of God or Christ anymore. But I guess they kind of, like, they know true Scotsman every single argument I make as being from a Mormon lens. Do you have any thoughts on, like, other ways to be able to express the idea that Mormons do believe in the same God?
Well,
I don't know if
they clearly believe in the same God. They just believe in different things. Like, they believe that there's this God, but they just have a different understanding of the God. And you can argue all day about whether or not your understanding is correct. But the reality is they still believe and worship the Christ, which means they are Christians.
Right.
One thing I would do is ask them to define what a Christian is. Go to the dictionary. What does the dictionary say? Okay, based on the definition of a Christian from the dictionary, do Mormons count? That might be a way you can go.
Yeah, but it's so weird because most Christians today don't identify as Christian like that.
That's so true.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like,
so
and they,
often.
the same Christian that would be like, I don't identify as Christian, will turn around and say Catholics aren't Christian or Mormons aren't Christian. I don't understand it. But yeah, I would try that. But I think they're just going to deny it because it just feels like it's they're like little games of, people who rep in different sets.
Actually, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Just
I thought you were done there. I didn't mean to butt in there.
no, that's okay. Go ahead.
I was just fuck with them. Turn around. Say no. Only the Mormons are the real Christians, and you're wrong. And make them defend that they're a real Christian. I bet they can't do it.
That's a good one. Wait until they say I'm not a Christian because it was considered a slur. Like, wait till they say that, and then make them defend being a Christian, and then like, yeah, do that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I don't consider myself to be Christian or Mormon any longer. But I think it's like they're trying so hard to like get me to be Christian again, and I'm just like, I don't want to go back there. But it feels like every time I talk about my experience for why that was not a good way to view the world for me, anytime I'm like, no, like my relationship with Christ was what was most important to me when I was a kid, and it was built on unobtainable expectations and shaming and all of these different things that really impacted me. I guess it's really hard to get around the no true Scotsman argument sometimes, because I feel like even when I'm saying like this is Christian, they just turn around and say, well, your version of Jesus isn't the same version of Jesus as my version of Jesus.
Right. Yeah,
And
just
so
no
you're
true
not
Scotsman on
Christian
back.
because you don't believe in the same Christ. So yeah, thank you for taking the time to answer that. I was just really curious because I don't get to talk to a lot of like, or as familiar with theology as you are, to get other people's thoughts on it.
Sure, it's a fair question. Yeah. But thanks for calling in and asking the question, Jade. Best of luck to you.
Have a good one, Jade.
Yep, thank you, and I hope that you have a great one. Bye.
Cheers, friend. I've heard that a lot. There's a lot of Christians that are really picky about these people aren't Christians, but I am. And also, why are they always Baptists? This seems to be the trend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't understand is it a lot of times it'd be the ones who say that they don't identify as Christian because it was considered a slur in the Bible. Like, and Jesus was never Christian. That's what they called them to make fun of them. So I'm not Christian, but then the moment that you say something, somebody says, well, I used to be a JW, they'll say JW isn't Christian. Like, they'll immediately negate, and I don't think they quite understand. Hell, I don't think they understand anything. Never mind. Like, I don't know. They don't. I think when they try to negate another denomination and say that they're not Christian, what they really want to say is they don't follow the teachings of Jesus, or they don't have the same doctrine, but they don't quite understand what the definition of Christian is. We need a Holy Ghost dictionary so that we can.
We do. Somebody actually, Joel and Mezzo, we might be able to put them on that. I bet they can come up with one pretty quick.
Yeah. We need one because words don't mean words with them. And I'm losing my mind trying to figure out what the fuck they're talking about half the time. And then I feel sorry for them because they get cussed out by me. And it's because I'm looking at adults. I'm talking to adults and I'm expecting a adult conversation, but they enter the chat and they say stuff like dictionaries don't matter.
Yeah. Words have no meanings. We can't actually make claims because I can just change the meaning of the word. It's a nonsensical viewpoint. But friends, that was our last call. We're going to read some super chats to close out the stream. Thanks so much for being with you. We really love being able to get here and talk to some believers, and then also get to converse back and forth with our fans via super chats. So I'll read the first one, then we'll just alternate. 5 from Joshua Everett. Good to see you tonight, friends. Says, Saturday streams help me wind down a bit from my work week. Good to see Thinker here, too. Couldn't agree more.
Hey, Josh. I can't see it's.
Oh, you can't see it? Oh, you don't have the main screen pinned. On the top of Zoom, there's a screen that'll have both of us on it. Usually you just pin it and you'll be able to see the super chats. If not, I can read them. It's not a problem.
Okay, I see it now. Okay. Thank you. See, learn something every damn day. I've been using Zoom my whole probably about the last 10 years. $5 super chat from Misha76 says, "Oh, gotcha. As long as a graphic designer friend of Kenny's did the math and confirmed his conclusions." Phew, I agree. Thank you, Misha.
And another 5 from Misha. Thank you so much. Says, does death from boredom listening to Kenny's nonsense count as a near-death experience? Said, I actually think so. I nearly dozed off myself.
Yes. He's going to put that in his next paper. Gonna count as an experience. $4.99 from Trent Trez says, by his logic, the Stay Puffed Marshmallow Man is real because I saw Gozer manifest on Earth in Ghostbusters.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I saw the gatekeeper.
Who are you going to call? Kenny.
Don't call Kenny, whatever you do. And $10 from Misha. Thank you again. Says, I know for sure God doesn't exist because I've been praying for him to send one of his theists to call and save us from Kenny's BS. Sorry, friends. We kept him on for a bit.
Both. Like we were.
We didn't have anybody in the queue, so we're like, we're going to make this phone call count for all we got.
Yeah. Thank Kenny for my $6.99 line. Who is that from?
I'm not sure, actually. Maybe from another Kenny?
No.
I may have accidentally grabbed one that wasn't a super chat. My bad.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no worries. And 9 from Shirley Temple Black. Good to see you, Shirley Temple. It says, first time watching Thinker live. So psyched. Rock hard for Doug. Simply wet for Sharon. Gay for Justin. And now gay for Thinker. Hell yeah. Love to see you.
Yeah.
And Thinker's amazing. We all agree on this.
$5 from Brandon Runyon. I've had the pleasure to study Hebrew in the same classes as Thinker, and she's legit. She knows her shit. Yeah. Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, Thinker don't play.
I skipped class today. Dr. B showed up in a chat.
I won't tell anyone. This is important. Thank you, Future Nerd 108, for the $9.99 super thanks.
$5 from Hank says, magic is real and I can neither prove it or answer your questions, but I can invent enough shit to survive the conversation with my beliefs intact. I agree. The serpent is the cross.
There's a lot of cognitive dissonance happening there. And £5 from Barbara Barrett. Thank you so much for the super chat. Says, Justin, what's the Hot Wheels on your wall? Oh, well, this is actually a friend of mine from the channel, who knows I'm an electrical engineer and I love EVs and robots. He and I were talking about how awesome the Lucid Air was, and he's been helping me save up to buy one, and then we finally got one. It's right here. It is in fact a Hot Wheels Lucid Air, but it is a Lucid Air. Did my camera freeze for a second?
Yeah,
it sure did.
Oh, sorry. There it is. Sorry about that. So I finally got my Lucid Air, but it is in fact a Hot Wheels.
$5 from Brandy Fox K8U. Tithe 100% and 110%. No, is that wait? Is that tithe? What is that?
I'm not sure.
Tithe 100% and 110%. No believer. Much love. XOXO. Any weed smoke love. My parents disowned me trying to find friendship and love. Aw. XOXO. Yeah.
$20 from Bacon and Bush. Thank you so much, friend. Says, Kenny's polite. That's nice. His understanding of science reminds me very much of the late 80s fringe science discussion. Education in our current understanding of physics would be good here. Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe it. It feels like some of that 1970s, 1980s, like venture into like Ghostbusters territory. Like, can we read minds? You know, that kind of nonsense.
I think he took offense when I said you've been working on it for 35 years and still don't have an answer. I think he took offense to that. But I wasn't trying to be offensive. That was just real shit. Like, you're still at the same place. Yeah. $5 from Misha. Kenny mistakes having an answer for having a good evidence-backed answer. The former is not sufficient. Agreed, Misha. Yes, agreed.
And $5 from Christian Live Streamer. Interesting name. Says, I just wanted to hear Justin say, ineffable. Rock hard for Doug. Well, you got it. Sometimes you guys give me hard words to say when you challenge me in super chats. Thank you for not putting a bunch of S's and P's in there and challenging my lisp.
$5 from Misha. You only need to look at all of us paying money to stay how fed up we are with Kenny. The hosts have been incredibly patient and kind to you. And the majority of the super chats are about you, Kenny. I bet you're still watching.
And $5 from, I'm pretty sure I've talked to Kenny, actually. I think he forgot about me. $5 from Tom Roman says, Kenny sounds like he needs to call into the Art Bell Coast to Coast radio program. Another reference Justin will not understand, and I do not understand that. But it's probably one of those call-in shows where you tell like weird ghost stories and paranormal, right? Am I guessing close?
I don't know. I've never heard of it.
Like the Sid Roth show. Anyways.
$5 from Space Barbarian. Argumentum and wingium. Argument from whining or whining.
Nailed it. Kenny really made a lot of fans here tonight. 10 from Carissa. Hey, good to see you tonight, Carissa. Says, love you being on the show, Thinker. You are super awesome.
Thank
Absolutely.
you, Carissa. Love being here. $20 from Darren White. I honestly don't have anything to say. I've been a big fan of Justin's appearance on this channel for years, and thinking is a great addition. Excited to see you more. Thank you, Darren. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. And $10 from Dr. Fudge. Hey, good to see you tonight, Dr. Fudge. Says that journal Kenny exclusively published in has a 2-year impact factor of 0.094 and a 3-year and later of 0.0, by the way. Reputable journals usually have 2 or higher. LOL, Lamau even. I mean, I didn't want to dig into his publications because I feel like it'd be an endless rabbit trail, but I had a suspicion that his publications were going to be in like pseudoscience journals.
Like pay to get it in there. Like, you know, one of those, they send you an email and you pay money to get put into the journal. Yeah. $10 from Darren White. Thinker. I said thanking in the last message because I'm a very special one. We knew what you meant. You go by Thinker, my bad. Excited for you to be a fixture on this channel. Thank you, Darren. You're forgiven. All's up.
And 10 from Mr. Demo says Murray. This is gonna be fun. Murray. How do you say Murray from the TV? Remember the TV show with
Murray?
Maury, there we go. In the case of 4-month-old Jesus, Joseph, you are the father. Crowd, ooh. You know he's yours. Look at the ears, Joseph. Tisk, man, she playing. That's God's baby.
Oh my God. $5 from Joshua Everett. Everyone is a moral subjectivist. Some of us are just honest about it. True.
That does seem to be the case. So that's where I'm at. And $10 from Chris Wyndham. Thank you so much. Says, why would anyone want morality to be defined by the biblical text of Christianity unless you've never read it? Yes, that's what we're saying. People love biblical morals. Only the ones who haven't read it. Now, I ran into people who do want actual biblical morals and they have read it, and they're usually monsters.
$5 from Not That Bible Jason. What's up, Not That Bible Jason? Two of the clergy's most wanted in the same place at the same time. Oh, snap, let's go.
Clergy most wanted is crazy.
But they do be like, come back. They be in the chat, come back. Jesus is looking for you.
They spend a lot of time worrying about us. I'll tell you that. And $10 from Bacon and Bush. It says, the Bible defines the fruits of the Spirit. We need to define the fruits of a Christian based on experience. They'll be wildly different. Yeah. And it's funny, too, because the Bible does say you're going to be a new creature in Christ, a new creation. And like it sounds like he's going to change you. But I can't seem to find a difference between Christians and non-Christians in terms of behavior.
Yeah, we can't find the difference between a Christian and a demon. Because they share the same thing, even with their God, right? Like I ran a topic, the God of the Bible is the deceiver. And they were so mad about that because they had to admit that their God does deceive. And if your God deceives and your devil deceives, what's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
I know. $4.99 from This Is Kayal. The problem isn't that gods are unfalsifiable. It's that unfalsifiability is treated as a feature instead of a fatal flaw.
Fair.
Yeah.
And 10 from Glider, I think. Thank you so much for the super chat. It says, speaking as an ex-Mormon, Mormonism is a really specific type of Christianity. You don't need a different Christianity. You need better friends. You deserve better friends. And I agree. I'll never understand why you want to hang out with someone that's so hung up on that kind of minutia.
Agreed. $5 from Gem Nick. Thinker rocks. Love her ability to set and hold boundaries with guests on her live streams. Kind and assertive. Also drop 6 beats in mad verses. Thank you, Gem Nick.
That is a fact. And $10 from Christian live streamer. Thank you so much. Says, Kenny did sound like a coast to coast AM caller. Even Art Bell would have been annoyed with Kenny. Coast to Coast was a Bigfoot USO ghost call-in the call-in show in the 80s, 90s, and early aughts. I suspected that might be the case. I'll have to go check it out. Maybe there's some stuff on YouTube that I can go watch. But yeah, he definitely sounded akin to like crop circles are real.
Kenny was better than the dumb atheist Christian caller. Like,
true.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, friends, I think that's the last of our super chats. Thank you so much for being here and watching and supporting the show. And Thinker, thank you so much for joining me. I had a blast, as we always do.
Yes, I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It was an honor.
Absolutely. And friends, it's Saturday, so make sure you're tuning in tomorrow for the full day Sunday. We got all kinds of shows happening on Sundays, so tune in for that. And if you haven't followed Thinker yet, go to the description of the video and follow her on YouTube and also on TikTok. You won't regret it.
Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all.